Welcome back to Chatting with Nuts. This is episode number 76. And before we get started tonight, I want to give a special shout out to Mrs. Nuts. It's our 5-year anniversary of being married today. And she was so gracious to say, you should definitely do this CWN because you seem excited about it. And I said, you know what? I am. But truly, none of this happens without her. She enables me in all of my hyperfixations, and that includes YouTube and books. So Mrs. Nuts, Kelsey, thank you. I love you so much. If you're watching this, I don't know if you are. You're probably playing video games, if I had to guess. But we are here tonight because we got a special guest. We got a guest that I've been really wanting to have on. I've only heard good things about this guy, and I'm a fan of what he does. And if you don't know him, I think by the end of this episode, you'll feel like, one, you know him, and two, that you love him. And that is, of course, John at Talking Story. How are you, my friend?
I am feeling like I should not be here. It is your 5th wedding anniversary? Okay, number one, I should be your wife. You should be with your wife. And number two, you have to have the healthiest marriage in the world, my friend, for your wife to say, no, do a stream on the night of our anniversary. Like, you found a queen, my brother. Like, oh my God.
We have interests of our own, so it always helps, to have the time to do that. But I am very fortunate because, whether it was wrestling or this, or when I was addicted to Magic the Gathering for a while, like anything, she's always
you
down
did the cardboard crack.
Oh yeah, I'm actually back. The needle is back in, unfortunately, right now. Yeah, it's a problem. But she's even put up with that.
Here's the worst part. I never played. I owned a comic shop. I was a pusher.
Oh
yeah. I pushed the cardboard crack. Yeah.
Oh man, I was really close with the guy who ran the shop back in Morgantown. His name's Ron Davis. Phenomenal guy. Runs Four Horsemen Comics, and he would always tell me about the business side of things. And I was like, man, this seems like it is a stressful business. He also did comics as well, obviously.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for being able to stick that out, because I know it's not an easy gig.
Yeah, man. I please, my absolute best to you and your wife. I can't believe you're spending this time with me. I feel not worthy.
You should feel special. In fact,
I feel like I should have brought a bouquet. Like, this is crazy.
Well, we've been together for 10 years. So we dated for 5. So it's cool. We're happy, obviously, but it's not. I don't know. We're not big on the celebration type deals. I don't know what it is. Even birthdays and stuff. We've always kind of been, we're chill. We're chill about things.
Jimmy, take it from an old man.
All right.
Take it from an old man who made this mistake, right? Slow down and celebrate your victories. Stop life and celebrate your victories. I spent so much time looking to the next thing, the next challenge, what comes next, what I'm doing. That's not good enough. Move on to it. I never slowed. Please slow down and enjoy your victories.
I think that's actually great advice. And it's one that I wish you would have told me that years ago, because so many things in my life that I loved that were big accomplishments, I never took the time to smell the roses, not even once. So.
Yeah, I was the worst at it when I was young. I probably around your age, I was the worst at it.
It is it's tough sometimes, especially I think in today's age where it's easy to you feel like you're comparing to everyone constantly. You're seeing other people do stuff and you're like, okay, well, what's the next thing? And
yeah,
there's like a pressure to be productive and successful
yes,
that I'm sure has existed throughout time. But for me, it feels maybe a little bit more amplified, especially whenever you're 33 and you're looking at your life and you're like, well, what do I got to do for the next 60 years before I kick the bucket?
That window, your window, you start to feel, oh, this is my life. My life didn't quite go the way I thought it would. And the window starts to creep in like this and a little bit like this. Oh, I've been there, my friend. And the worst thing, I didn't even compare myself to others. It was all beating myself. That was, no, you missed it. Try again. I was on a wheel, my friend, on a wheel.
Dang. So what made you decide to slow it down, like you say? Like what like something had to have happened.
I had a kid.
Well, I don't want to do that.
No, I'm not recommending it.
Slow down.
I'm recommending it. I'm not. I mean, if you're ready and you want to, I'm recommending it. Best thing in the world. If you're not ready and don't want, I'm not recommending it. But what happened? I mean, my wife and I were building a theater company, and when you could work, you're opening a show, you could work 80 hours a week, and not even look up, and you don't even realize it. And we're going to have a kid, we're going to build a family, and it just was untenable. We couldn't keep living that life.
Wow. So that is Well, I think people should also know your son usually is around. He's definitely a big
Yes.
part of the channel. He's one of my favorite aspects of your channel, actually, and we'll talk about
Mine
that.
too.
But he's not here tonight,
He's
and
not.
I'm insulted.
I know, and I'm telling. But hey, Jimmy, I got everything turned on.
Hey, I'm just saying you might be able to clean up the budget. You don't need him anymore.
Don't even joke, man. There's so much because I'm not about to edit anything.
So you don't do any of your. He does it all.
Good God, no! I'm a talking face hole. I come in and sit down and ask him when's it going out, and okay, see you for the next one. No, I don't. I do very little here.
Wow, I am very shocked. I mean, I know that he was a big part of it, but like, how do you convince him to do these things? Like,
you know what? He convinced me. I think
Really?
I think he got sick of me chasing him and his mom around the house. Like, you should read this. Look at this. And he was like, if I built, because I know I had no plan. I had no social media. Like, it's not like I could move over folks from Goodreads or anything like that. Like social media, I knew absolutely nothing. And he's like, if I build you a channel and get you to meet some people, would you leave us the heck alone? I think was the impetus of
he outsourced.
yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. I think that I really believe that was the case.
So, at any point, do you feel like he's going to kind of say, "Okay, now you're on your own"? Is this going to happen?
No, now I'm telling you, he has such ownership of it. Like
Wow.
he loves it. He's starting to read now. Like
What?
yes, I could never get this kid interested in books, and now it's like it's starting to like filter down. He's like he read the first Red Rising trilogy. He started the Mistborn trilogy. He wants to get into he hears like Dr. Chase. He hears Dr. Chase is like, well, I want to read his books. I want to and it's like all of a sudden it's starting to.
Well, we want him to
finally-
keep reading. We want him to keep
Yes.
reading. We don't want him to read Philip's books then.
Oh, come on now.
I'm only kidding. Philip. Dr. Chase.
But no, he's moving out. He's engaged. He's moving out. He did the smart thing. He saved up and he's going to move out. But he says, no, I have plans. We'll still do it together. My voice will still be on there. Actually, I might do video with you because I'm going to do a setup from different location. So it's like, no, he is not letting go. It's really...
It sounds like he's kind of caught up a little bit.
He is. He
Now-
really is.
So obviously you've been trying to get him to read. So now
Yeah.
you did this channel and now he wants to read. What about it? Like, why is that different? Like, I guess, like, what's the motivator for him seeing you talk about it so passionately, or?
I think it's that classic booktube FOMO, right? Like he hears everyone saying about how amazing these books are. Because I've been saying it for years, and it just, it's like I was screaming in a bag and then getting up to 55 on the freeway and throwing it out the window. He's heard me say it for years. But hearing other people say it and being like buried in the community and hearing it and meeting authors and hearing him interviewed and stuff, it's like then he starts to get involved. His art was always film. He always wanted to do film. So he writes and reads screenplays and he reads books about filmmaking and all that kind of stuff. But I could never get him to sink into fiction.
Well, he's done a great job with your setup. I mean, obviously, look at it. It looks pretty amazing. And I've always thought that your videos were so well done. So kudos to him. I mean, he clearly has an eye for it and has some talent. I wonder if coming to BookTube, because like when we hear someone talk about fantasy, right, or somebody does, and it's just one person, they get an idea about who's reading that and what they're talking about, like Star Wars. I don't like Star Wars, I don't like sci-fi, that kind of thing. And maybe BookTube is an opportunity to put a visual reinforcement that like there's more to it than just a couple old nerds getting together and talking about Lord of the Rings and if Tom Bombadil should have been in the movies or whatever.
There you go.
It can expand it, and thankfully there's people from all different types of walks of life, different ages too. I would say that YouTube has been a young person's game for a long time, and it on the whole it still is for the most part. But here at BookTube, we have plenty of people through all types of ages, right? And then backgrounds. And I think maybe that helps just a little bit to say, oh,
it's the coolest, right? It's the coolest.
That's what I'm trying to say. We're really cool, like so cool.
I'm not kidding. Look, I think that's it. Every time we talk to anybody, he's not here tonight, but every time we do one of these or interview anyone or talk to anybody, we put the headsets down and go, "That's the coolest guy in the world." Like, I mean, it's yet not to happen. Like every single person we've met, it's like, I dive into traffic for that guy. That guy's the coolest person in the world. You know, it happens over and over again in this community, and I think that was a big part of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you know, there's times where I'm surprised by someone that pops up into my sphere or that I get recommended. And you and Belltube are two people, and Bart as well. Like all of you guys kind of came.
I gotta find Bart. I haven't found Bart yet. Tell me where to go for that.
Yeah, I'll show you. I'll show you after. It's down a dark alley on a secret. No, it's on the dark web, brother.
Don't only go there at certain times of the day.
Yes,
you don't want to walk down that. Yeah, well, after dark, don't do it.
Yeah, you got to be real careful, but there's some heady stuff there. But I'm always surprised, you know, whenever someone pops up and like you got your own thing going on. You know, it's a whole new universe, and YouTube keeps us in these little corners, and every now and then you bust out of it. I was shocked whenever because you're approaching very quickly 6,000, right? I think you're at 5,400 subscribers or something.
I don't know.
Like
I honestly don't know. I try.
You're doing very well.
Yeah,
you're doing great.
Thanks. People will let me know, and I'll go. Oh my God, seriously? I got really anxious because I started out looking. and that was quickly one of the things I just put over on Jacob's, like, hey man, I'm not going to check these stats anymore. I'm just going to hang out and have a good time.
So that's not something you're interested in seeing.
It was, but look, and I don't know why people have tried to explain it to me, but I'll put a video out, any video about anything. Every time it seems to happen in the beginning, and I would look, and 3 people would unsubscribe, and I would pull my hair out about, what did I say? Did I upset? Well, I mean, what the heck? What did I do? And I mean, really, it was not good for me, you know? So did you post on social media sites other than YouTube before YouTube? Like, were you active? Not at all. I had nothing to do with it.
See, I was not very active either. I don't post stories. I would tweet every now and then something stupid, usually a rap lyric. And I don't know. And to me, it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, oh, I get it. I see why people struggle with this thing. And then was able to eventually divorce myself from that, you know. And there's still times maybe, you know, where something gets through the armor and it bothers you or something. But it's interesting to hear because, you know, as someone who is, I mean, you are doing very well, especially for the length of time that your channel has been around. But like your setup's great. You're going to continue to become popular, I think.
We'll see. And the weird thing is, it's like my first 6 months, like it took six months or so to get 100 people.
Yeah.
And it was like, 100 people. That seems crazy to me. You know, like,
well, I always say this to people. Think about 100 people in a room.
That's a lot of people.
That's
exactly like, hey, I did theater for years. I'd have hit my best friend in the face to have an audience of 100 people on some nights, you know?
Yeah, I imagine. So theater, man, what's your favorite show?
Oh, of all time?
Yeah, you can do a couple. You don't have to put them in order. We're gonna take it easy on you the first hour.
Yeah.
Second hour, it's gonna get dicey.
Yeah, Jimmy, that's. I'll go a playwright. Anything that Martin McDonough writes, that's my favorite.
Okay, what has he written? I don't know anything.
Yeah, you probably do. He's done he moved from theater to movies. Like he did Billboard outside of Ebbings, Montana. He did Banshees of Inisherin. These are his films that he wrote and directed. And before that, he did some amazing plays, Irish type plays on Broadway in London.
I was, it's funny you were mentioning this, and I was thinking about someone in the audience, and that would be the Bee's Knees, who loves theater. And I had just recently seen my first show as an adult, which was Book of Mormon, and I loved it. It was incredible.
I haven't seen that. I would love to see that.
Extremely offensive. I loved it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was mentioning, me and Bees were talking about the recent rap beefs in pop culture, and then we were talking about other music, and she brought up musicals and theater, and gave me a list of things to try out.
I got to hear this list.
I have it on my laptop. I don't have it on
give me a couple. Give me a couple. Come on. Now you're on the spot.
I say you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Bees, put the list in. bail me out. I put it on my my text edit on my coding laptop, because that's where I do most of my discording nowadays. But I would highly recommend the Book of Mormon. I don't know anything about theater, but I highly recommend it.
I would love to see it. I would love to see it. I really would.
Yeah, I saw it on Broadway, which was really cool. And I haven't stopped listening to the soundtrack since. Like, I cannot seem to stop. It is very catchy, very well done. Like, that was the other thing. It wasn't like a mockery. I mean, it was really well performed.
Yeah, it's funny, but they are so good. If they score it right, you know, because they have that same hook that comes back around through every second or third song, and it's like you just walk out of there hooked. I mean, they get it. They get you. I mean, Phantom is amazing for that. If you've never seen any musical, I'd see Phantom, because if you go to, well, it's not a Broadway anymore. If you see a good touring company do Phantom, I mean, the set alone is worth the price of admission. It's like a magic show just to see the set work. It's amazing.
Yeah, that kind of like live performance is something that I can relate to from wrestling, and I have so much respect for it. And I think that it's very important that those things continue to happen. It would be an absolute shame, you know, if we saw a reduction in any of that, any kind of live performance, really, or live production. It's just, there's something magical about being in that room at that time, and you know, you're kind of swept away. You know, we talk about when we read, we suspend our disbelief, and we kind of
well, you know, from wrestling, that's, I mean, same. You study it. It's an art form. It's a performance. I mean, you know exactly what show night feels like, and what, you know, you've been through it all.
Well, I've been singing and dancing around the house lately, and Kelsey said, you know, you should have done theater, and I said, probably so.
It's never too late, Jimmy.
My body probably would have thanked me had I chose a different one. B says, Hadestown and Into the Woods were the big ones I recommend.
Hadestown, Into the Woods, those are solid choices.
And then she ranted about Sondheim?
Sondheim, Stephen Sondheim, absolutely. One of the greats of musical theater. You can't, any Sondheim show, you can't go wrong. Nerds,
I agree. We are, if there's anything I am, it is nerds.
Yeah.
I actually, speaking of nerds, this is a random tidbit. I thought this was kind of funny. So over on the Song of Ice and Fire, Bend the Knee show that I do for Song of Ice and Fire, about 43 minutes into one of the podcast episodes, I said standing on business, and someone commented below and said, "Oh man, if the nerds are saying standing on business, it's not cool anymore." And I wanted to reply and be like, "Bro, you're 43 minutes into a podcast about a very specific book series in book 3. I hate to break it to you, but you're the nerd too."
I'm hello kettle, you're black. Like
I'm like, I don't, this is not the gotcha you thought it was, you know?
No, not at all.
But Officer Problem means it endearingly. So he's cool in my book. It sounds like you've had an interesting life. I mean, you were telling me that you used to live in LA for a little bit, and then you were down there in Texas, the Lone Star State.
Yeah. Born and raised in Texas. Yeah.
So with all of the traveling that you've done and changing of scenery, do you like to see travel in the books that you read? Is that something that you attach on to, someone changing their place?
Yeah, I do actually, because I can connect to it. I think all of us can. All of us have been in that situation where we feel like an outsider, you know, like whether you're starting a new grade, you're going from junior high to high school. I mean, all of us have been thrown into a situation where it's a new kingdom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is a trope I love. I mean, Sanderson does it a lot.
He does the fish out of water type deal. I'm rereading Warbreaker right now, and that is certainly true in Warbreaker for multiple characters, actually.
I mean, how many times has he written a book about, okay, a princess is leaving this kingdom to go to this kingdom to save both kingdoms? And it's like he's used that same conceit at the beginning of, I mean, several books I can think of.
Yeah, come up with something original, you hack. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I'm convinced he keeps doing it until he gets it right. I think he started with Elantris and then kind of White Sands, and then by the time he got to Warbreaker, I think he could leave it alone. He was like, okay, yeah, I got it. This is done now. I can move on.
I will say, rereading Warbreaker, I still don't like Vivenna very much, but I like the book just maybe a little bit more than the first time I read it, actually. Surprisingly, I really, really like the magic in that book, and also Lightsong. Lightsong is very fun. Yeah, so that's
Lights. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, the idea. I didn't know this. This is like a piece of trivia, but the reason why Warbreaker's magic system is colors is because his editor or publisher said your first two books were very dreary, like there's not a lot of color to them. And he was like, okay, bet. I'll just make an entire magic system based around color.
Yeah. I love the whole thing based around breath too. And it's like how many, immortality is based on how many you're carrying, and you can't use it until you start carrying a certain number. And it's like all of his magic systems I think they're pretty darn cool.
Yeah, and with the numbers and like there's level ups, it's flirting with that LitRPG almost. There's just a little there.
So is Mistborn in a lot of ways, right? Like so is so many fantasies is progression, whether we want to, I remember going all the way back. I used to love Rift War when I was a kid. And it's like you go reread some of that. It's like, yeah, it's progression. It really is.
It is. And maybe one day when LitRPG gets bigger and bigger and bigger, we will look back and say, oh, yeah, Mistborn, that was LitRPG light.
Yeah.
That was low LitRPG.
Yeah, low LitRPG.
I'll tell you what, folks, especially after talking to Belltube, and Brian is he's the guy to go to.
That guy, he absolutely knows LitRPG.
And, he was telling me, and I didn't know this. He's like, dude, there are like hundreds and hundreds of books with we're talking significant amount of Amazon reviews in the LitRPG that like none of us in the adult fantasy booktube sphere even know. We know Dungeon Crawler Carl. We know, isn't Wandering In also LitRPG or no?
Yeah, Wandering In. Who hunts monsters. I mean, there's a couple biggies. I see several, but it's like, no, that well runs deep.
I think that LitRPG is going to be very, very big in the future. I think it has a large ceiling. And there is a chance we'll look back and people will be like, oh, yeah, Sanderson, that low LitRPG stuff, I don't like. That could happen in 20 years. We don't know.
You never know, man. Are you a gamer, Jimmy?
I am a gamer. Yeah, I would say I game a bit.
I do a lot less now.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I got into it because it's like, this is a whole new way to tell a story. I love the narrative device about how to play your way through a story and you're involved with it. And then I started to get older and my reflexes are getting slower and I end up having to pass the controller to my kid more and more to see what happens next in the story. Mm-hmm. So for me to hit like Dungeon Crawler Carl or something, and it's like, well, this is the same vibe, the same fun that I couldn't do anymore because my thumbs were worn out. But I can just pick it up and read it now. Like, I find myself not missing gaming because I can get that same vibe because I only played story modes. Like I would never do online with anyone or anything because I was just dead meat over and over and over again.
You're like, I don't have to deal with the failure of this thing. I can just.
Oh my God, I was a controller thrower. I was that.
Really?
Oh man, I would get so. You do it. that was
the dark side of Talking Story.
that was me and Jacob's collaboration before Talking Story. You do it.
Dodging controllers.
Get past this guy right here. I can't do it.
Dad, it's the tutorial.
Yes, that's yes. Sometimes.
Did Jimmy just Brian? No, I'm giving Brian props. That dude knows his LitRPG. My goodness.
Yeah, absolutely.
He just put out a video today. Y'all should go check it out if you have any interest or curious at all about LitRPG. And he's kind of saying, hey, here's other beginnings to LitRPGs that aren't Dungeon Crawler Crawl that you could very much love. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe Sanderson will be considered, not cool enough for the LitRPG crowd at some point. That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
But fantasy in general, right, is so much progression. Look at Game of Thrones. Yeah. Where does Khaleesi start and where does she end?
Yeah, I think change is something that we are pessimistic about people. Like, can people change? Depending on who you ask and what person you're asking about, they're going to have a ton of different answers, which is fair because it's a nuanced question. But I think in fantasy specifically, and the fantasy that a lot of people seem to gravitate towards, that change is a big piece of that, which is like why some people really do not like Joe Abercrombie's circular storytelling. I happen to really like it. And I always make an argument that they did change and grow, just in different ways than it didn't result in any different outcome for them, but they are not the same person where they started the journey. So maybe there's something kind of, that we want to acquire ourselves. Like we want to prove that we can change and do other things.
Yeah. It's that character arc we all look for, right? Like I've only read the first trilogy of First Law. I got to get to the standalones because I love the first trilogy, but I mean, I was kind of shocked because I'd heard so many, oh, these characters are not nice people, you know, and it's like, I kind of found them heroic. They're living in a very difficult world. They're doing what they have to do to survive, but at the same time, at their center, they have a code, and they're doing the best they can, and they do actually grow and come to a new, you know, like Logan Nine Fingers is not the same man after he spends time with Pharaoh. You know, it's like there is, you know, I don't know, man. I just felt really different about it.
I like that. I've always said that it's people just trying to do their best.
Yeah.
In a world that would really like them not to.
Or a world that won't allow them. I mean, look at Glotka after he has to take care of the sister. Can't remember her name because I'm old, but you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. Yes. I mean yeah, she's easy on the eyes, but still, like he takes seriously to take care of her, and it there's a little bit of care that he has, and there's a little bit of gentleness that he has, and I mean, here's somebody that's been put through the ringer that still has that, right? I don't know. Yeah. It was a very different experience for me. I think maybe because I just heard so much of what to expect.
Yeah, I think there's always like another element to things, especially like when mainstream discourse around something is very like, you know, we talk about tropes in books, but there's tropes in conversation. There's cliches that people talk about, you know. You know, any epic fantasy released in the last 5 years is modern or epic fantasy, classic fantasy with a modern spin, you know. And if I have to hear that again, you know, and I've said it myself, so I'm part of the problem. You know, I'm not immune to this thing. I've said it. But you know, with First Law, you know, there's like a bullet points about how we talk about the series. So whenever someone else comes in and has a totally different experience and is able to share it, I think that that's actually one of the magics of talking about books online. It's one of the big positives, you know, seeing it from someone else's perspective, even when it's negative, right? Like I love Robin Hobb, but I have a lot of people who do not like Robin Hobb that are close to me, and seeing it from their perspective, like for instance, Tori, you know, did not enjoy her time with Ship of Magic very much. And even though I did, it was still cool to see someone come at it from a different angle, which is why I always love also when my wife ends up reading something that a lot of people have read, like she's actually read Live Ship Traders as well. It has a totally different take than anyone I've ever heard. It's really good. I love that.
But that's the beauty. RD is the name, by the way. Fantasy Awash and Tori and several threw it out there. Thank you so much for my old man brain. Thanks you. Yeah, I saw Tori and I had to comment on Tori's like, oh my God, I haven't started my Robin Hobb journey and I'm shocked that, you know, but I mean, that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Like each one of us brings like our own self and soul to the art, and it's going to hit us all differently. Like we're all going to see something so different. Like that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, that's what makes it cool to have so many voices out there.
Yeah, I think it is. And also whenever you start engaging with the community, you kind of, it's easy to be kind of being in your own bubble, you know, and then you start hearing other people like, oh yeah, I think George R. Martin's a hack. And I'm like, what? Like I start short circuiting and I start vomiting. Start throwing things, but you know, eventually.
Wait a minute, I just threw up on my mouth a little bit. What?
Yeah, I don't know what to do with my hands currently.
Yeah.
So I just feel like you know, it kind of exposes us to other takes and whether we like them or not. You know, I think it's a good thing.
Well, I did my. You know, we all do our favorites, and I did my, and he's at the top of my list.
Oh, I saw. That's why I like you.
And and some people don't. Like immediately, some people go, oh, you know, you're just, you know. And it's like, well, what's your favorite? I think the beauty of it is we all, you know, we can all find one and we all have it and we're all different. And I try to get the conversation going that way. But it's like, for me, I mean, let's face it, he changed the game. Like, you know.
Oh, yeah. Massive impact. Massive impact. And maybe not all for the good. Maybe also somewhat for the, you know, that's the thing is whenever people are so impactful and monumental in anything, this happens in music all the time as well, it's not always a good thing, because what comes after that and what labels or publishers and books do is they try to make that again, and they want to, you know, because we live in the age of quick profits, so it's like, well, how can we make this thing, dumb it down a little bit more, get it out faster? Okay, now we have this. And after you see that so many times, in retrospect, someone who's joining the genre now reads a bunch of that stuff and then goes back and reads, I've already seen all this.
Yeah.
I've already seen all this. Not to say that he wasn't doing things that other people had already done as well. I mean, there's plenty of anti-heroes prior to A Song of Ice and Fire as well. But I mean, you'd be fooling yourself to say that George didn't have a significant impact on the way that people look at characters in fantasy. So,
Oh yeah, but I mean that's the time honored. I mean, art and patronage, right? Like that's been going on for forever. And it's like we used to do a young playwrights festival when I was running the theater company, and I would spend a lot of time in schools teaching playwriting to get them to write plays to submit to the festival. And what I would always try and stress to them is like, look, don't let this stop you that you don't have some. I got nothing to say. I mean, it's all been. It's like, yes, it has. It's all been done. From the 16th century, we had Shakespeare, we had the Bible, we had it's like, yes, but you haven't done it yet. Someone that was raised by your parents hasn't done it yet. Somebody that goes home and sleeps in your bed every night hadn't done it yet. Someone that has your best friends hadn't done it yet. That's why we keep doing it. That's why it's important and will never go away. That's why story defines us. That's why we will always do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's why tropes work sometimes and sometimes they don't for people. It's just the way they're executed and the way they hit you at a certain time and the way it's framed. I mean, you can tell the same story from 8 different POVs if there's 8 characters, and each one of those things is a different type of story with a different type of vibe to it or tone. And that I understand how easy it is to be discouraged that someone else has already done it. I mean, even making videos, right? Like, I've been wanting to do top 10 videos for many years and I haven't done it. But then you see a lot of top 10 videos and you're like, I don't want to,
just do it. But Jimmy, you got to do it.
Oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I mean, okay. I'm doing it.
Come on, do it.
I'm doing it,
Jimmy. Listen to me. Hey, listen to me. I want you to just do it. Just do it.
I say like Shia LaBeouf would say.
Because the thing is, what are the most watched videos? That's what people want to see. They don't never get tired of it.
Hey, I'll tell you what, and this is the honest to God truth. Whenever I'm bringing somebody on, I do go look for a top list because I think it indicates a lot of like what their experiences have been, who they like, and even a dislike list could be really cool. And it's great. It's a great conversation starter. So like you said, oh, you don't like who's your favorite? And then they tell you your favorite. Boom. Now we have a conversation and now we're connecting. And that is one of the easiest places for me to start whenever I'm bringing someone on Chatting with Nuts. Like, all right, let's see. So as much as, top 10 lists can be exhausting at times, I think they have their place for sure. And people do happen to love them, don't they?
They do. And it's like my whole, when you start, I was like, I want to do it because I'm so far behind on fantasy, right? I haven't read a lot of it. So I want to see how this list changes. I want to see what happens as I go on. So I got to put this out here so I can go back and look at where I was to know where I got to.
Yeah, Sarah Reeds did a top list, and instead of putting them in an order of loving, she put them in an order of how they came to her. And I thought that was smart. Incredibly smart and valuable.
Really like that.
Yeah. Very valuable because it shows how your taste has changed. I read Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne back when I first started the channel, and I had a blast with that series. I absolutely freaking loved it. You know what I mean? But if I did a top 10 series list, I don't think it's making my top 5 anymore.
Really? Because you've read so much more.
I've read a ton of other things. Yeah. My taste has also changed a good bit. Now, would it make the top 10? Probably. Because I can never really forget what I felt reading those books. I had a great time.
But now George is top 5.
Oh, he's number 1. I mean,
okay. Robin
that's why I almost don't even want to do a top series list because like everyone knows what number 1 is. So what's the point?
For me, it's like I have my reasons why. I just to move that off the number 1 spot for me would be Herculean. I think.
I completely agree. And without a doubt, there is a bias of nostalgia and it was very formative for me. So how do you, it's not a fair fight. It's not a fair fight. George he's got semen in the gloves. You know what I'm saying?
I've got the rose-colored George Railroad Martin glasses on. Like, absolutely.
Got the conductor hat on. And
whoop, whoop, the whole thing.
Dude. Yeah. Oh, my God. It would be tough. I think authors is also, an interesting list because for me personally, I like a lot of different stuff. I like contemporary fiction. I like some classics, not all, obviously, but fantasy, sci-fi, magical realism, all that stuff. So I think an author's list would be stressful, but whenever it's stressful, it's usually kind of fun.
Yeah, I did these are the authors I buy kind of right away. and I bet that's changed already. I bet I would have to add, But I think I'm pretty sure we share one on that list as well, right? I think, which is not necessarily talked about a lot here on BookTube, and that would be David Mitchell.
Oh, I was literally about to say Bash and Deltas made my day because said, "You fine gentlemen are the biggest reason I picked up David Mitchell. I just finished Ghost Ridden. I've never been so entertained and confused at the same time." Dude, David Mitchell.
Yeah.
I got to tell, I need to read at least one more book from him before I can say it, but he might be top 3. He might be top 3.
But okay, but which ones have you read?
So I have read Slade House, Bone Clocks, and Cloud Atlas, and Cloud Atlas is one of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah, same. So, okay, so if you've done Bone Clocks and Slade House, okay, and you could start with Ghost Ridden. You could, if you want to start from ground zero. But if you really just want to start fleshing out the story, you got to at least go back as far as like Autumns of Jacob de Zoet.
That's the next one I'm doing, and I'm reading with Alan, hopefully.
So you're gonna see where some of what you're seeing in Bone Clocks, you're gonna see the birth of it in Jacob de Zoet.
Okay, I could get behind that. I mean, there's also just like a baseline with Mitchell with his writing and the way that he does characters that I'm sure he could write a book that I wouldn't be hot on, but I'm going to get a certain level of enjoyment out of it as long as he sticks to what he does. And my friend Kev just read The Bone Clocks. I wasn't sure how he'd feel about it. He read it and he was like, "Yeah, it was good. I liked it." And then today we were kind of talking about Hugo from Bone Clocks and how he's just the worst. But he's like, honestly, he's like, "I love reading about Hugo. He's amazing. He's so entertaining."
Here's the beautiful thing about Hugo is we all have our Hugo moments. I mean, if we're really honest with ourselves, I've looked in the mirror and been that petty. Like, I have to say it. That's what, Laura just said, he's no Crispin, which is he's so true, but here's the thing that I absolutely adore about David Mitchell. When I was living in Texas, I was living in San Antonio, and they did World Fantasy Awards there one year, and he was the guest of honor. And, my wife and I, because my wife is the one that introduced me to David Mitchell, right? Because he's in the lit shelves, and she's very much that's her bag.
She doesn't go to the fantasy shelves very often.
Very, 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 very rarely.
Why?
She did for George.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah,
George is my boy.
So she got me on David Mitchell, right? So we both went to World Fantasy, and she took, she knows where he's coming from. She knows where he is. She took him nice loose leaf tea so she could make him tea during the break because he wouldn't have good tea here in San Antonio, Texas. We got to spend some time with him. He is one of us. Like, all he wants to do is hang out and read Batman comics with his kids.
Awesome.
He had the best time there nerding out with all the other... I mean, he is not that guy that says, "Oh, I need to be on the lit shelves." He is not that guy. He is one of us, man. I adored spending time with him.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that comes through in his writing. Whenever people talk about David Mitchell, and myself included, we use a lot of descriptors that would maybe make it sound like David Mitchell is stuck up or something like this, or pretentious. And he's not. He's really not.
No.
And in fact, I would say his humor is almost like very universal in some ways. Now, I know someone's going to read it and be like, "That wasn't funny at all." That's fine. But there is this certain thing where I feel like getting tea with David Mitchell would be a hell of an afternoon or a morning.
So cool. And it's like, my wife gave me this, and I started with Jacob de Zoet, and it's like, okay, it's a lit book. Yeah. It's, it's accountants there's a little bit of a, and then all of a sudden it becomes, oh, this is straight up horror. This has now become straight up horror.
Oh,
this guy's a horror writer. And then you get to Cloud Atlas, and it's like, this is adventure. This is mystery. This is sci-fi. This is like,
and
it's
comedy.
A love letter to and comedy. It's a love letter to every type of story you can imagine. He does it all.
Cloud Atlas is a story about stories in more ways than one. It's the structure of the story, and then also the voices of the story, but then also they're different stories but have a through line. I saw this video where it says that like he balanced on a razor's edge and somehow made it work as a book, because that's what people's problem is with it, is that they say they read Cloud Atlas, they go, "Well, those were good stories, but it's not a book. They shouldn't be called a novel. It's a short story collection." But the argument from the pro side is that no, actually, thematically, they all are tied together, and there's this conversation to be had about how these different time periods and stories are linked, but also which ones are real, which is one of my favorite parts about the entire book. I mean, I genuinely feel like it is just one of the best.
It's a masterpiece, right?
Yeah,
I was reading that, and it's like I think I was in such the wrong place when I started because I just got angry. It's like every time I get attached to every time I get attached to something, whoop, I'm somewhere else. And it just, but then he like pulled the string, and I saw the picture, and I was like, oh, he's a genius. Like he's not working like I work. He understands, he's on a different.
I think to have those voices too, like the different characters and get us hooked, I think you have to understand humans to a certain extent. And I do feel like he gets that.
Such strong voice, right? Like each character is distinct. It's real. Like I've heard that, and they have the foibles of human, like the narcissism, the pettiness, and at the same time, you're going to root for these people because they're so real. The same fears, the same wants, the same desires. Like he's up there with me, man. He is up there with me.
And then you read about Hugo, and it's like the Jesse meme from Breaking Bad. It's like he can't keep getting away with this. It's like you're kind of frustrated, but at the same time you're captivated by it. So I'm so glad that you like David Mitchell, and that you're talking about him, because I would like more people to read him. I think, man, I love me some David Mitchell.
And you got to push past the marketeers. Don't let the shelf Nazis stop you just because it's not over here where we usually shop.
Nazis is a great term. Wow.
Look, this is sci-fi. This is horror. This is mystery. It's everything we love, and it's all right there, and it's done at the highest level of storytelling and character. You're just doing yourself a disservice because it's over there. You're not walking across and picking it up.
Yeah, and I think that it's at least worth a shot. And I always tell people, well, I shouldn't say always, I've been telling people that Bone Clocks is probably better start than Cloud Atlas, because Cloud Atlas, I think Bone Clocks is a little bit more digestible as a story, whereas Cloud Atlas, whenever you have such different stories in a book, like some are going to resonate, some won't. So I would hate for someone to have kind of like a mixed experience about it.
Sure.
Whereas I feel like Bone Clocks is kind of more of a through point.
Right.
And in fact, for me, the fantastical elements of Bone Clocks are actually the down points for me. I actually like the non-fantastical stuff that happens.
You're going to love Jacob Dezoet. You're going to love Jacob Dezoet because you're all the way back here to square one with him, where you start to realize, oh, this guy's, this is horror. But it's everything is on the physical plane, right? And then as you go forward a book or two, by the time you get to Bone Clocks, you go, okay, this is everything that's been happening that I've been reading on the physical plane. Here's the entire overarching metaphysical spiritual story he's telling as well that I had no idea was going on. So you're going back to the beginning of the physical story.
Which is interesting because his books are connected in weird ways. Now, It's not like you have to read, it's not a Cosmere level type thing, which I know Cosmere also, you don't have to read everything, but I don't think it's to that level. But there are tie-ins and reoccurring characters and mentions. So there's Easter eggs for people who want to read, a bunch by the same guy, which I know I'm going to read everything he's written. That's definitely a goal of mine. Hobo Giant says, I would like to hear what Donahue thinks of David Mitchell. He likes David Mitchell quite a bit. I actually think he loves Cloud Atlas, if I'm not mistaken. So we got one past the dude bro filter for Steve Donahue. Life and Binding says, Jimmy, do you like Curdy V? I call him Curdy V because I don't want to say his last name. I'm just being transparent. I have not read anything from him, but I plan on it. Oh, is that the reaction? Meaning I should do it immediately?
Oh yes. Here's what I'm going to say. And this is easy. This is easy, right?
Okay.
Go pick up a short story collection called Welcome to the Monkey House. One of the greatest short story collections I've ever read. And you can just use the stories as a palate cleanser between your other reads. Oh, I'm wrapped up this book. I don't want to start the next one yet. I'm just going to pop open and read a story by Vonnegut. Boom, you're going to be a Vonnegut fan.
Okay. I'm hitting buy now. And it's gone. It'll be here tomorrow. It'll be here tomorrow. Yeah. See how easy that was, John?
You're gonna. I'm telling you, man. You're gonna love it.
This is how I got addicted to Trank. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm so impressionable. I've been talking about short stories a lot lately with Murphy, and we've just been talking about how we feel like they're underappreciated a little bit in our circles. And I like short fiction quite a bit. I've been reading a George Saunders book where he had taught a class in Syracuse, and Bookish, by the way, shout out to him. He's the one who told me about it. But George Saunders has this book where he goes through a bunch of Russian short stories and teaches them how he has taught them at Syracuse for 30 years. And the thing I really like about this book is that George Saunders refuses to use like academic terms. So like, you're not going to hear him say narrative or, plot device or something like that. He speaks true in everyday language about the experience with the text emotionally. And some people do not want that, but I like the way George Saunders approaches it. And he does talk about technique, but he does it in a manner that relates to the human connection to the story still. And really recommend it to anybody who's interested in that kind of thing. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but as I'm reading Chekhov, I'm just like, man, I really love short stories. Like Leo Tolstoy, his short stories are my favorite things from him so far.
Chekhov is a master too.
Yeah. So far, I'm very happy that kind of led the book off because it's excellent, really great. So I'll read the short story collection for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to hear what you think, man.
Yeah, and Slaughterhouse-5 is the one everyone has told me about. I don't know.
Slaughterhouse-5 is great.
I know nothing about it.
It is. It's such a fever dream of a book, man. Like and it's one of those things where it depends on who you are and what you bring to it as to what the heck that book is. And that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Oh, hey.
I know what it is to me. I know what it is to my wife because we spent hours talking about it. But it's to everyone, it's something a little bit different. It's almost like it's almost alchemy on paper.
Alchemy on paper is an insane description. Did you come up with that?
Just right now, man.
Dude, John, you're good at this. Dude, whenever you go big, don't forget don't forget me, okay? Come back on, give me the rub, as we say in wrestling.
It doesn't matter how big I get, man. I'm still going to be in your shadow.
I appreciate it. I agree.
It's so true.
I was the first guy with the mic mount. John, you on me. You got the headphones. What are you gonna do? Wear glasses next?
Let me tell. I have worn glasses, so it's like if I'm doing it, I usually do so I can see the chat.
Oh, now you've worn glasses. Now you're retcon.
I'm telling you, man. I've straight up. I steal everything I do. I came from theater. I steal every. Why did I watch movies? To steal. That's all I ever
borrowing, do. Right? It's borrowing.
Mm-hmm. Homage.
Zach and AK, which I'm gonna assume it's Zach in Alaska, or it could be Arkansas's AR. Anyway, I haven't read Mitchell, but you guys might enjoy Star of the Unborn by Franz Werfel. Franz Werfel self-inserts himself into the story as he documents his dream walking journeys into the future. I have this book. My good friend Mitch sent me a copy of it, and I hope to read it this year. Very excited.
I do not have that book, but I'm gonna add that to my list. Thanks, Zach.
It's a hard book to grab a hold of, from what I understand.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you'll be able to find it, I'm sure. But like, if you can, I don't know if you do book collecting, but if you can get a hardback cover of this thing.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it's not a bad piece for the book collection. So shouts out to Mitch, by the way, for sending that along. I'm very excited to read it. I read the first chapter and it was bizarre, like weird, very out there.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to happen during the show. And now I guess we'll just jump into it because Kev says, John, sell Jimmy on Matthew Corbett and McCammon. He's only read Swan Song and he won't listen to me. So I'll say this. So my buddy Scott.
You gotta tell me how you like Swan Song first of all.
I thought it was okay.
Oh, okay.
Like there's nothing about that book I can point to and go, this was awful, but it felt slightly cheesy to me at some points. I also did have this kind of contrarian take on it because I felt like people recommended it to me because there was a pro wrestler in the book. Like, oh yeah, did you like the pro wrestling part? And I'm like, oh God, I don't want to read about this. Now, what I will say is McCammon actually did a very nice job of staying in his lane and not trying to pretend like he was an expert on the business. I appreciated that. In fact, he might know even more about the business. I actually did like his pro wrestling character and I expected to hate it. So I got to give him some props there. But Swan Song just wasn't what I mean, I love post-apocalyptic stuff, but there was just something about it that didn't quite get it over the hump for me. It was mostly the back half of the book. I mean, there was some really good stuff in there though. So Matthew Corbett why don't you tell people what it's about for people who don't
Okay.
know?
So what, before we move on, what is your favorite post-apocalyptic?
Oh, you
book?
put me on the spot, bruh.
I mean,
Man.
Matthew, The Road, or
I would
there's
say
some
The
great
Road.
ones.
I say The Road is probably it. I also, for all of its faults, still really love The Stand. I know a lot of people don't like The Stand,
love
and
The
there
Stand.
is huge problems with the book. But I
Yeah.
really loved my experience with it for the most
Yeah.
part. And then on top of all those, I just finished reading Born by Jeff Vandermeer, and that book is great. That's a great book.
Canticle for Leibowitz is also a really good one if you haven't read that.
Been on my TBR forever. I know it's a little drier because I read the first 2 chapters.
It is.
So I got to wait till I'm kind of...
Takes a minute to get into, but...
So would we count, speaking of post-apocalyptic, do we count like Second Apocalypse by R. Scott Baker in that? Like, it's fantasy, but it is kind of...
I haven't read that yet, so I
because that would take the cake if it does count.
Really, see, I hear so many. I have the first trilogy. It's on my stack. I really want to get to it.
It's heavy.
That's what I hear, but that's my bag, baby. I'm fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I have a feeling you will find many things to appreciate about what Baker's doing there. But there's plenty of other ones, like the 5th season could also maybe somewhat be considered that.
Sure, I would say that.
There was another one I was just thinking. Anyways, I don't know. My favorite, though, is probably The Road, most likely.
That's a solid choice. Very, very solid choice. Matthew Corbett. I will tell you what Matthew Corbett is about.
All right.
Matthew Corbett starts out with Speaks the Nightbird. And what I love about this book is it is such a passion project from the artist, right? Like, this guy was kind of the B-grade Stephen King. Stephen King would have a book come out. Robert McCammon would have a book come out. And so oftentimes they're pretty similar, right? Same type of lurid paperback cover. I loved his prose. I thought it was great. I was young when I was reading him, and it just scratched that itch for me so perfectly. He decided he wanted to do some different things. But he was the B-grade Stephen King. So he could not find any publisher to do what he wanted to do next. He wanted to start doing historical fiction. He wanted to do some different things. So finally, he went with a very small publisher in his home state, I think Alabama, if I'm correct, and came out with this book like years after he just retired and spent time with his family, because he didn't want to keep writing the same thing. So he just kind of pulled back, right? So this book came out, and it was so enormously different. The prose is beautiful and lush. It is like, I would call it neo-Dickensian. It has the same type of hooks that Dickens has. His character names have the same type of, like Dickens would name people and you would know exactly who that is and the name sticks with you forever. Like things like Mr. Smallweed, things like that. McCammon would like Mr. Slaughter, Professor Idris Fell. Like, he just has like some of the coolest names, and it's got this amazing... The prose will transport you to that time and place. And the first story is about Matthew Corbett is a very young man, and he's traveling with this barrister, and he's his little assistant, and they've been called to Font Royale, which is a very small startup town in South Carolina, and they believe they have a witch, which they need.
And those are bad.
That not good, not what you want in your community. And they need someone to come in and say, yay or nay, burn or not burn. And young Matthew Corbett really starts to find some chinks in the argument of, is this a witch or not? And he starts uncovering what's really going on in the politics of Font Royale and what's really happening. And McCammon thought that was it. But then I think Matthew Corbett just kept talking to him. So he did a second book called The Queen of Bedlam. And Matthew Corbett finds himself in very, very early New York City. And again, the prose is so gorgeous. You will hear how they laid shells along the roads. You will hear the crunch of the shells as they walk. You will understand the cravats that they're wearing and the waistcoats they're wearing. You will see it all in its splendor. And he becomes a problem solver because there's not quite detectives yet. And it's kind of like a Pinkerton agency, and they hire him on as a young problem solver, and he's working under this problem solver called his name is Great House. They call him the Great One. And he goes on case after case after case, and he starts to find out just like a young Holmes, that there is one mastermind that is pulling all the strings, kind of like Moriarty is. And this is Professor Idris Fell. So as the series moves on, you start to have this amazing ribbon that runs through it of the supernatural as he's chasing down how Idris Fell is pulling all of these. He's Machiavellian, manipulating all of the crime. All of this is tied together in one huge conspiracy, and only he can stop it. And he's getting closer and closer to Idris Fell as the series goes along. And we do know McCammon just finished the last manuscript for the final book and turned it in, and it will be out this December, called Leviathan.
What a sell!
The series is complete. There's no reason to not dive in. You won't have to wait. It is amazing.
How much did he pay you? Come on here, huh? Are you Robert McCammon? My God!
I wish,
bro. To end it with and the final page has been penned and it'll be out this December. Put it in the Christmas stocking. Like
yes,
that was
from Levidian Press.
Woo! Molly said, "Holy shit, that was slick." By the bucks, Jimmy. By the bucks.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Not everybody can come up here and do this, folks. This is not something that we see often. This guy over here,
you know,
he's got some talent.
This is why we get all the big money, right, Jimmy?
I'm telling you, fashion checks over here. My God, John talking story. He's talking the story right now.
I love McCammon. He's my favorite. He's absolutely here we go. I know it doesn't work for you. I stood in line when this special edition first came out.
Oh, it's sick.
Dark Harvest hardcover, when it first came out, I stood in line in Harlan Ellison's store, Dangerous Visions in Sherman Oaks, California, to get it signed by Robert McCammon himself.
Man, let me tell you what. I love that edition, though.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Do you have a Boys Life special edition over there?
No, I have a first printing sign, but I don't have a special edition.
Because Kev is just spamming Boys Life, and he wants you to now sell. I don't know if I want you to sell me on Boys Life, because I don't know if it could get any better than what you just did.
Oh, Boys Life is special. That's a special book for me, too, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I own Matthew Corbett, as I said, or Corbett, or whatever.
Corbett, Matthew Corbett.
I have the first book because old booktuber Scott convinced me to buy a long time ago, and he's been telling me to read it. So Scott, I remember, and you were the original, you were the OG. I love the idea of the setting. Like, just I would like to see more stories written in that time that aren't, just literary fiction and kind of dry. Like, I want to see more from that time period. I saw the movie The Witch. Did you see that?
The Vivitch?
Is that how I should say it?
Yeah, the Vivitch, that's how I say it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people hate that movie. I love that movie.
Dude, it didn't work for me, man.
Just the setting alone.
Oh, the setting's gorgeous. Yeah.
The idea of people like coming to this place and they're trying to make this. It's just like you don't know what's across the river from you. I just think that is like a fascinating setting to be put into.
I think you're gonna love Speaks the Nightbird, man. I really do.
Oh, guy, how many books is it?
10.
That's ridiculous.
10. You know what? You're not gonna think so. Once you get into no, it Speaks the Nightbird, Queen of Bedlam. By the time you hit book 3, which is Mr. Slaughter, you're gonna be like, okay, might be my favorite series.
Okay.
If you like historical fiction at all, and you like the classic feel, and you like being transported by the prose just on its own merit, I'm telling you.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I might try to fit in it. I mean, Kev says they're short after the first two.
Speaks the Nightbird came out in 2 volumes because it's a doorstop. It really is. But they get smaller. He goes from that huge historical fiction chunk to Holmesian adventure, as he moves on, it morphs and becomes something different.
Man. My goodness. Oh, and Molly said, wait, so the series of silences Speaks the Nightbird, right? The series, is that the series name?
No, the series name is just the Matthew Corbett.
Corbett.
The
Speaks
first
the
book is Speaks the Nightbird.
Yes, and it is is big, but if it's
big.
bingeable, I mean, here's the thing about me, which is great. My year, I had some books I said I'm going to try to get to these. I've actually read a decent amount of them, but there are some that are probably going to fall the wayside. The only thing I'm like pretty much guaranteed reading is the sequel for Ostenard.
See, I haven't done Ostenard yet. Yeah, I know. Now, I've done some Tad Williams, but I haven't done Ostenard.
Mitch, I'm not dropping the Peter Watts Starfish read. We will read that in June. I told you we would, and we will. But that's a nice thing about being so loosey-goosey and not having this big structured thing is that I can throw in stuff when I want to. The next time there's a gap, and I'm not sure what I want to read.
And somebody was telling me, I want to do the stand, but it's so huge. And it's like, you know what? Don't think about the length. All you got to do is read the first 3 chapters. If you like it, read one every once in a while. It's not
actually love that, John. I do this all the time with books. I started 1Q84 and I had no business starting that book. It is 1,300 page long.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? If I only read a chapter every week, I don't really care. Because, like, let's be honest, nobody's clamoring to hear me talk about any more Murakami. I mean, no. I don't think anyone really gives a shit. But no. I
loved IQ84 though.
I am loving it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it is really good. And I was kind of, I liked the other 2 I read from him, but they were not like all timers for me. Whereas this, I'm like really, really vibing it. So,
yeah.
That's a book that it's like, well, when am I going to have time for the 12? It's like, well, I'll make time, I guess. I'll read it.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, I've actually been reading it in a pretty good clip. So,
well, even if you read a chapter, like before I started this channel, like even if you read a chapter a day or something, you're going to get to the end. It's going to happen. What else are you doing? What else are you doing with your life? You know what I mean? Like if you're just doing a chapter or so a day, you can still do everything else you want to do. You can still read a huge book. War and Peace can be tackled.
War and Peace is the most intimidating. Well, actually, Infinite Jest is, because I tried to read it and give it a serious attempt, and I was like, nah, I'm out. I'm out, bro. I'm out. That's how I know that I'm not an official dude bro, by the way. Is that
really?
I could, yeah. Dude bro book number 1 is Infinite Jest. Number 2 is Blood Meridian, which I like.
I did not know. Oh, I do like me some Blood Meridian though.
Oh, my man. Belltube told me you were a dude. He's like, he's just a dude, man.
Yeah, I do like me some Blood Meridian. My wife turned me on to McCarthy too. When she was going through a program, she spent some time at his, can't remember what college it is now that has all of his papers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she was going through, and it's like, the amazing thing is this dude, what you pick up at the bookstore, that's pretty much what he took a pen and wrote down.
Wow.
Like she's looking at first drafts and it's like, it's all there. Like it's just comes straight out of his brain.
Dude, I'm captivated by how that man's brain works in general, and then just his approach to everything. I mean, without a doubt, he seemed like kind of a jerk, but I also admire someone who is so closed off about what he does and doesn't seem to put too much thought into like anything else about it once it's out. Like he's like, it's out, it's done, get it or you don't, I don't care, I'm out of here. And I think there's a level of confidence with that I wish I had.
He's that guy for me. Like I grew up with a lot of people that I imagine he would be like. Won't suffer fools. Is just someone that you would sit down at a campfire and he would just tell you a story and you would just be be wrapped, and I just grew up with people like that. And you hear stories of people like Sam Shepard or McCarthy, and it's like, I don't know, man. It's a, kind of Papa Hemingway. It's like, I think that kind of storyteller is kind of becoming a dying breed in a way.
Yeah, I think, but whenever you see it and see it done well, I think it resonates with people still. So like that, there'll always be 1 or 2 of those around, and who knows? Like maybe that way of telling a story can be even like kind of reprised in a new way and reinvented.
That'd be interesting.
That would be really neat.
Maybe someone that's been on the wrestling circuit could pick up a pen.
I do fancy telling stories in a low voice. That is kind of my jam. Whenever I was cutting promos, like one of the best pieces of advice that was ever given to me was from Piper. And he got it from Jake the Snake, but it was like, if you want people to really listen, you shouldn't yell. You should talk just low enough where they have to lean into the television.
Yeah.
And that's why, Jake the Snake Roberts was really good. Piper was a guy who yelled, I'm going to kill you, Hogan, but you had Jake the Snake and he'd lean in and be like, when I get my hands on you. And you're like, whoa.
Wait a minute.
What's he saying?
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Shush down. I'm trying to hear, and you pull people in. And I get that sense when I read McCarthy. I really do.
Yes.
I feel like I have to lean in and be like, what is he saying to me right now?
He would be that guy, right? Like he's there and the flames are flickering across his face. And he's like, I remember a night like this when someone tried to kill us all.
Yeah, dude. It's like, let's go.
Wait a minute, what?
Let's go, dude.
Yeah, it started like this. And it's like, it's like that. He was just special, man. He was just special.
Yeah, I think about that a lot with Sunset Limited and how it was acted out by Tommy Lee Jones, and the way the dialogue goes back and forth in that is just so impressive in many ways. Lucas said, this has been a phenomenal reading month for you, Jimmy. It has. I will not finish the Murakami book this month or probably even next month because it's so long. But I've done Lord of Emperors. I'm almost done with Shaman's Crossing. And then I also read Pale View of Hills by Ishiguro. And oh my God, that book was awesome. Have you read anything from him?
I have not, man. You did heavy lifting this month. You did real stuff.
Yeah, man. It's the only problem. And I've been doing reading vlogs and I love them. But the problem is I need to get better at picking books to do together where I can get them done in like 2 weeks. Cause I'd like to have a vlog out like every 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
It's taken me 3 weeks, So this past, I would like to offset it with Chatting with Nuts. Cause I do it every 2 weeks. So 1 week Chatting with Nuts, 1 week reading vlog, 1 week Chatting with Nuts, 1 week reading vlog, then a wrap up. You know what I mean? It kind of has a good flow to the channel. But unfortunately Shaman's Crossing's taken me a little bit longer. Just because, work's busy. I've been playing Magic the Gathering, which is a problem. But they're also just big books. Like Lord of the Emperors is a bigger book. You want to take some time with it. Same thing with Shaman's Crossing. So I got to do a better job of pairing books together for the reading vlog.
Or if they're thick, they just read fast.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think so Shaman's Crossing, not to spoiler my thoughts or anything for people who are wanting to see what I think about Soldier Son, but it is not one that, like, when I put it down, I like it. But it's not one that's like when I put it down, I'm like, can't wait to see you tomorrow. It just doesn't have that that grab yet, you know?
Yeah.
Now it's going somewhere I think that could be interesting, so we'll see. And I do like it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Everyone listening to this
exactly
knows
what you're talking about.
Yeah, and
those are so cool. What's the last one you had? Is like, I'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, Pale View of Hills by Kazuo
Really?
Ishiguro.
Okay.
Oh, dude, bro. This book is 183 pages, and if I hadn't had commitments, I would have read it in one sitting because.
Oh, nice.
All right, so check this out. Okay, this dude is telling this story, and it is really just about somebody who. This isn't a spoiler. Her daughter has committed suicide.
Okay.
And this daughter was from a different husband in Japan, and then she has another daughter who doesn't seem like she visited this daughter's funeral whenever they died. Mm-hmm. So like the family's a little bit weird, and you would get flashbacks of this mother when she was pregnant with her firstborn who had committed suicide. And all it is her meeting someone who already has a kid in post-World War II Japan. That's the whole story. That's it.
And then what that incites, and she remembers and flashes back and unveils the character. Yeah.
I closed the final page and I was like, oh my God, this is one of the most psychological reads I've ever read.
Okay. What was this? What was this called?
It's called, I think it's A Pale View of Hills. I always mess up the title because it's a very weird title. I don't think it's as smooth as his book Remains of the Day. Like, I think this is smoother and it's a better book. But there's something about Pale View of Hills that when I finished it, it just like really recontextualized the whole experience. And you are questioning what happened in the book. You realize it's kind of an unreliable narrator. And I couldn't tell you what happened. I know that sounds weird.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I know. I'm in.
That sounds amazing. Check it out.
That sounds amazing.
And it's not overly fantastic or anything. Like I said, you could read this book front to back and go, boring, totally valid. But for me, it really resonated with me. I really loved it. I thought it was just tremendous. And 183 pages. I mean, come on. I didn't listen to any of the audiobook, but my library had it, which is cool because he won the Nobel Prize in literature. So he's fairly well read, by people. But man, just a great, it's his debut, which is another cool thing. Because if you end up liking that book, I mean, I read Remains of the Day, which I think is even better. So
really. I'm pretty sure my wife has read Remains and really likes him a lot. I've seen the flick.
Yeah, everyone says that the movie's really good.
Oh, the movie is Sir Anthony Hopkins is just jaw-dropping.
I mean, he's always jaw-dropping, in my opinion. He's just one of the best.
He's one of the people that I could watch for hours because he's so still. He has the secret of his wheels are turning so much he has to do nothing with this, and he can be so still and you feel everything. And I was always that actor that the director just kept telling me, if you were any more animated, you'd be a cartoon. Can you turn it down just a little bit? Like I only went to 11. My knob only goes to 11 for everything. So I watch actors like that. It's like, how is he doing that? And he's not doing anything. It's amazing. He is special in that movie.
Yeah, less is more.
Oh my God, you see everything. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I want to see the movie for sure. Paul says Pale View of Hills has stuck with me for weeks now since I finished it. It's one of those books I think someone could read it and look at you weird if you love it, because you're like, what? Yeah. But if it resonates with you, I think it could be a hitter for sure. And that wants to know if I'm Team Never Let Me Go. I have not read it. It's my next one from him. Don't say anything about it because I hear everyone says don't get spoiled on it. Apparently, that's his most famous book. It will be very tough to beat The Remains of the Day. Very, very tough to beat that book. Just absolutely incredible, man. Someone said, Beltu said he's alchemy on the film.
Yes, he absolutely is. He absolutely is.
I'll tell you what, some of these authors need to hook up with you, man, and be like, hey, what should I write for my blurb?
Yeah.
These blurbs are so uninspiring nowadays.
I'm a blurb guy.
You're a blurber. You really are.
I should change my channel name to The Blurber.
The Fantasy Blurber.
The Fantasy Blurber.
The Fantasy Blurber.
I like it. Great. I had a couple great reads this month. Like this month I did City of Thieves. Have you read that?
I have not, but I saw that you convinced your wonderful wife to read it with you. So how did you do that?
Okay, because she told me to read it I think years ago.
Okay.
And I never got to it. And then it won my Patreon pick, right? I pulled it out of a hat. So I finally read it because it was a Patreon pick. And she was like, well, I'll talk with that about you. And it's like, awesome. I would love that. And she had so much fun. We're looking for the next thing to do that with. And I'm thinking it very well could be Pale Hills because I know she loves that author.
Oh, yeah. And if she hasn't read it, I think it'd be a great one to read because if you're reading it along with someone, and I think once you finish it, you could sit down and talk for 2-3 hours about it. Possibly. Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe not 3. Depends on how slow you talk. Maybe a good hour to 2 conversation about that book after would be really fitting, I think. And for such a short book, I think that kind of speaks to its quality.
Yeah. I'm excited because we were looking for something, and that sounds perfect.
Yeah. So, City of Thieves, you'd recommend it?
Oh, I would highly recommend it. It was. Okay. Did you kind of hear what it was about at all, or anything?
No, I haven't got to watch the latest video. So,
okay,
if you want to give me the elevator pitch for it,
let me give you the elevator pitch. So it's the Siege of Leningrad.
What's that?
And you got the Siege of Leningrad during World War II. The Nazis basically like an old school siege.
Those are the bad guys, right?
The Nazis are the bad. Yeah, don't root for them. Don't root black hats.
Okay, got it.
No one really likes them.
Okay,
they were the people, if they would sit down at the lunch table, you would get up and move. Even if they had something good to trade, you would get up and move. No one likes the Nazis.
Okay,
so,
good to know.
Yeah, so this kid, Siege of Leningrad, the 17-year-old kid is outside and he sees this Nazi paratrooper coming down. He's dead when he hits the ground. This is a cool knife, picks it up, arrested for looting because you can't take anything off of a Nazi soldier, even dead, because that goes to the Mother Russia, the state, right?
Oh.
So he's taken straight to this prison called The Crossing, which is a really, really bad place. And his cellmate is pushed in with him. And his cellmate sits down and says, I haven't had
a good time in a while.
Yeah, and I won't even spoil it. But see, they think they're going to be taken out the next day, summarily executed, because the person pushed in was a deserter from the Red Army. And they're taken to this colonel, and this colonel is like, my daughter's getting married. We want to make her a wedding cake. I need eggs. Go find me eggs, and I'll set you free. So it becomes this buddy road comedy movie of them moving through Leningrad, where there's no food whatsoever anywhere, to get eggs. and it's the most it is the most depraved, horrible humans doing things to humans you would ever see, and at the same time it's everything humanity has to be hopeful about. It is like works on so many different layers, and it's funny and it's bitter and it's sweet, and the ending will just crush you. I highly, highly recommend it.
But now you have to give us the bad news.
It's written by David Benioff.
Now, some people in the audience, you're looking at yourself and you're saying, well, why is that bad news, Jimmy?
Yeah.
And that's because D&D.
Yeah.
There's this show. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Yeah.
A little show. It was called Game of Thrones, and it was on the Home Box Office Network, which is it's like a paid cable station. It's premium. It's not important. And they had some creators.
Yeah.
Who wanted to make a television show.
They had showrunners.
And they were infamously called D&D, and one of them, of the Ds, was David Benioff.
Yeah.
And then he wrote this book. And you're trying to tell me the ending's good.
Oh, yes. It's a magic trick, and it's the best kind of magic trick because he does it right in front of you. It's like you don't think I can see straight down to what's going to happen, and then you kind of get caught up, and maybe you don't see what's going to happen, or maybe that's not really what's going to happen. It's like, no, it is. I told you all along. And he unveils it at the end, and you're like, damn it, he tricked me again, and I knew. I saw the writing on the wall, and I knew, and he still tricked me. But he got these stories from his grandfather who lived through the siege of Leningrad. And he just kind of put this family story together. And it's a testament to the human spirit. And it's a true family story that I'm sure he embellishes quite a bit for dramatic effect, but it is dramatic.
So he took someone else's story again and adapted it.
But it was his grandfather.
Did he pay him? I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't want to like David Benioff. Why are you trying to make me like David Benioff?
I'm telling you. And this book you'll read it in 2-3 days tops. It's short, and you'll go, that frickin' dude can write. I hate him. Right. I'm sorry. He can write. He can. He just can.
ZK and AK says Harold and Kumar, the quest for eggs. I'm sold. And Anissa says, wait, it went from Nazis to buying eggs. Now these aren't Nazi eggs, right?
Oh no, honestly, you kind of have to deal with. They're the only ones with food anywhere near this. I mean, look, this is so bad in the siege of Leningrad. They would go to libraries and get book candy. They would peel the back of the spine of the book and make candy from the glue because there was protein in it. This was so bad that in the market, in the open air markets, they're selling jars of dirt under a sugar factory that caught on fire, and the sugar melted down into the dirt. They scooped up the dirt, put it in jars, and sold the jars of dirt. That's how it is. That is.
And you know what's crazy?
That's where you're looking for eggs, fresh eggs.
And the crazy thing about it is, like jars of dirt, and Whole Foods has made a whole business model around this.
Right?
That's crazy. That's insane. Does it have gluten in it?
No, it's gluten-free.
There has to be some...
And it's organically sourced.
I mean, there has to be some gym bro out there that's like, bro, get your protein in. If you start stripping these books by their spines and you eat the glue, big pumps. Yeah. 100%.
I did look. This is my favorite. I got to do it. I'm going to ruin it for you. I got to do it. The deserter gets pushed into the cell and sits down and is like, I haven't had a shit in 7 days.
I wish.
Like, and I don't mean a good one. I mean at all. In 7 days. How long do you think I could go? Like, and then almost this whole road trip is like him counting days. It's dark humor. You don't know why you're laughing at the same time. You have to. I'm telling you, it's all humanity packed into a very, very depraved, hideous little slice of the world.
Interesting. I mean, I will say the premise just sounds awesome. And an adventure to go get eggs, where that is a limited resource. I mean, if you took it as a fantasy story, right? And it's like, well, we need this magic, gem, but the gem is an egg, right? That's what we're talking about.
And it has that fantastical feel because the only way you can wrap your head around what people are doing to other people,
oh man,
is to really look at it that way. You're looking at the forest primeval. You're thinking about the Baba Yaga. You're thinking about the ogre that's eating, that's the only way you can actually process it, is kind of looking at it that way. So it does kind of have that feel to it.
Yeah, and someone in the chat earlier, I missed it, but they said it sounded like a really like run-of-the-mill fantasy novel, like the City of Thieves. It's like, okay, Scott Lynch Jr. is writing this one, but it turns out that it's not Scott Lynch Jr. It's David Benioff back from the grave to do this. I mean, hey, shout out to D&D. They did do the Three Body Problem show on Netflix, which was good, and it is renewed.
Did you like it? Did you have any problems with it?
I will say this. I only got to episode 6, so I haven't finished it because I never finish any TV shows because I'm terrible. And I liked it. I was enjoying it very much.
I enjoyed it. I really did. I had some problems with it. And I watched, after the episodes, I watched all the making of episodes they did. And it's like almost every problem I had with it, it's what they changed from the book. So I was like, there you go. That's why I had a problem.
I've heard some people who have not read the books read, and they're like, this is ridiculous. And I'm like, oh, actually, that piece is in the book. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, the books are crazy. Like, they're absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to do any spoilers, but it's like there are a couple things like they were like, well, for dramatic effect, we thought if we did this way. And it's like, and that's what I couldn't, I was just like, that's a lot to swallow.
Yeah, I think the performances were very remarkable. Specifically, the gentleman who plays Sam in Game of Thrones. I thought he did a phenomenal job in the show. Man. He's a really good actor. I'd like to see him in other stuff. I think that would be really cool. Christopher Navo says that he actually didn't care for the book, but enjoyed the show. Interesting.
I've heard that several times.
I would say I think that is not necessarily an unpopular opinion because the books do lack a certain amount of like charm and 3D-ness to the characters, whereas the show is quite funny at times and endearing. I mean, I even got a little choked up in one of the episodes. So, I mean, there's a lot more emotional weight to the show, in my opinion, in the book. I think you can get there in the book, but it requires you to look past, the 2D characters and stuff and think about the impact it would have on like the people around you. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to do a lot of work to get to that point. So it's not just pieces on the page and ideas. Yeah. It's the idea series, as everyone always says. So,
right. And that's, I think I would go in thinking, I mean, I love Dune. All the characters are Dune are crazy.
Yeah. I don't have a problem. I would say you're allowed to write stories of 2D characters. It doesn't have to be to the detriment of the story, actually. It might be to the detriment to what you enjoy about stories or your taste. But, I mean, let's not pretend like Lord of the Rings has the most 4D, 3D, 5D characters of all time, and they serve their purpose. And for some people, that's why they don't end up liking Lord of the Rings. But I don't think that it was necessarily a bad decision to go that way. And maybe the 3-body problem could be thrown into that as well.
I think, absolutely.
T. Baggins says every masterpiece is painting is 2D.
I can't argue with that.
Interesting. I like that. Molly said she made it through 20 minutes of 3-body problem for the dialogue, made me quit. It felt like placeholder lines for every single line. Do you mean in the show or the book? I'm curious. I would not say any of the dialogue at any point in the books really wowed me. I wasn't there for the exchanges most of the time. There's some terse conversations had because there's very big things. Oh, Tori says, come on, Jimmy. Legolas is highly layered character.
So much backstory there.
Layered in clothing, maybe. So you did something I really liked and I was envious of. You end up going to the Christopher Rocchio book release event where you got to do an interview with him. And I was just kind of wondering, did you know you were going to go, that you were wanting to film, or was this kind of like a last minute decision? Was that part of the motivation to get down there? Because I thought you did a nice job. Yeah,
we knew we were going to film. We knew we were going to go. I was going to take him out. He was nice enough to let us take him out to dinner and meet his wife and hang out a little bit and then get him to the signing on time and hang out with some people there. And then we knew we were going to, shoot a little bit after that. He was like, yeah, absolutely. We'll talk after. No problem. But he is such a generous, kind dude, and he spent so much time with each and every person that was in the line to see him, as well he should. Some people came from New York and far away to like come to this signing, right?
Yeah.
And he spent so much time with everyone that we closed down the bookstore. So when it was time to talk, it's like, well, we'll just go, so we ended up on a bench out in front of the bookstore because we didn't want to keep them open after hours. They had hosted us so wonderfully the whole night. So that's how we ended up on a bench outside, because he's such a generous guy. Like, he's really, and I got to meet his family. His whole family is really, really, really cool.
That's awesome, man. And it was a big event. I mean, it seemed like there were a lot of people there and people were really excited about it.
Yeah. I think this guy is only going up. I think by the time he finishes this series, I like to say art is timeless, and it's like, I think he's been in a little bit under a bush for a while, but I think it's going to be his time in the sun by the time this last book comes out.
Yeah, we have one more to go. Disquiet Gods just came out. I haven't not read it yet, but you have read Disquiet Gods, and
I'm up. I have not. My next one is Demon in White, which is
okay
in a month or so.
Okay. So I really love books 1, 2, and 3. I love books 2 and 3 very much, and then 4 and 5 I have reservations about. There's some stuff there that I'm not super big on. But the thing I keep hearing about book 6 is that it goes back to being weird, like Howling Dark, and that has me very intrigued because Howling Dark's my favorite, actually.
I loved Howling Dark.
Yeah, very much.
I loved Howling Dark. Like, it was, this unbelievable space opera with this amazing dash of epic fantasy into it, with this patina of Ridley Scott's Blade Runner over the entire thing. Like, I just ate it up like candy. I absolutely thought it was great.
Yeah, there's a very big thing towards the beginning where you're supposed to, it feels weird. And you're almost discombobulated, but it's actually intentional, and a lot of people complain about that part of the book. I actually love that part of the book. So from the get-go in Howling Dark, I loved it. And it was
you like the weird. The weird.
Yeah,
and
of course.
As you go on that journey, it only gets weirder.
Yeah, and some of the stuff's pretty trippy. I mean, have you read Book of the New Sun?
No. I really need to, though.
So I'm super curious to see if or how he were to take influence from that, because I think there are some answers that could possibly be callbacks to the Book of the New Sun, but I don't know that because I haven't read the latest book.
Oh, he says that's one of his biggest influences.
Oh yeah, it's clear. It's very clear after I've read Book of the New Sun, and then thinking back, for sure. I would love to see you tackle Book of the New Sun. For everything that you've read, you got a lot of stuff under your belt, and weird as weird can get.
Yeah,
very odd, confusing at times, but I thought was just an amazing journey through those 4 books. And you know what? That's a book. A chapter a day was enough. A chapter a day. Just read it over 9 months.
Slow and steady. Slow and steady.
It's never a book that I would say I could read a 400-page clip in. Never. Or even 100 pages. I think I maxed out about 30. And wow. It also very much one that I could reread. I have not read Earth of the New Sun yet, which is like the sequel to it.
Yeah.
But I hope to get to it. But if you've enjoyed Sun Eater, I think that you should definitely give a shot the Book of the New Sun at some point.
That's a great idea. Like, I try to at least 100 pages a day, to kind of keep on target. But if you had like an in-betweener, like, I'm just going to do, a little chapter a day here, something on top of what I'm doing, just to kind of, a little bit of a mind-altering, mind expansion read, just a chapter a day. I think that would be the perfect way to do that one.
Yeah, I think that it's one that definitely demands like a lot of attention. It's not going to work for everyone. Like it's a difficult book to read, and also it doesn't have a lot of the stuff that people like really enjoy about a lot of the more modern stuff. But I think it's great. And Gene Wolfe is a phenomenal writer for sure.
Yeah.
I saw someone point out that we have very similar backdrops, by the way, and I thought it was kind of funny. They said, "Oh, backlit bookshelves and blue, purplish." It's like, yeah, that's kind of the vibe we're going for here.
Yeah. I steal everything.
Creative inspiration, I think, is what
I steal everything. Pastiche. It's a pastiche to how much I love the Fantasy Network.
I appreciate that. When did you first see my channel? I'm very curious.
I saw your channel before I even started mine. Like when I was kind of going down a rabbit hole, like the first channel I ever saw was Mike. And I started looking for stuff because I'd read like the same authors for like years and years. You know, like we all have our favorites, right? And I was looking for new stuff, right? And I would go, well, here's GQ's best list of this, or but you know, whatever. And it's like I'd go to the bookstore and get something, and it's like I was like, you know. So it's like I think I'm gonna look. People talk about booktube. I think I'm gonna look up some booktube people. I saw Mike, and then it's like, dude, it was a rabbit hole. I just started watching more and more and more. It was like I was just, it was all the people that I wish I lived close to. You know, like when I was younger and in theater, we would just stay up late all night talking about scripts and story. And then I had my comic shop, and I'd have my regulars. We would just talk about comics and story. And it's like all these channels I was finding. It's like, oh my God, these are my people. This is, you know. So no, man, I found your channel early on when I just kind of went down the big rabbit hole.
That's awesome. I'm glad that YouTube deemed me acceptable to put in front of you. That's a good thing in my estimation.
You're pretty big, man. You're pretty big.
I'm kind of just doing what I'm doing, you know, and I'm so confused what's happening in chat right now. John is saying something about a mail order. I have a wife. She's wonderful. What in the world are you talking about?
She let you. Your wife is beyond if she let you do this on your anniversary.
She's actually she's going to be a guest on Chatting with Nuts very soon.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah,
I cannot wait.
She's been reading a lot. She's been reading a lot, and she has things that she wants to talk about. We've even talked about her doing a tier ranking of every book she's read since I've started BookTube, because I'm constantly pushing things on, you know, just trying to get her to read stuff.
That would be awesome.
John, I know you're joking. I saw Mail Order Bride, and I'm like, what in the world? It threw me for a loop, man. Threw me for a loop. Yeah, my channel's pretty freaking big, you know. It's like,
come on, Jimmy, come on. Just admit it. You know, I love your channel because it's like they're not you go off the beaten path more than some. Like I was seeing kind of the same things on a lot of channels.
Yeah. And
then on the fantasy networks, like you'll go off the beaten path more so than a lot of others, which I really dig.
Yeah, it's not good for the channel per se. You know, YouTube really likes to put you in a lane, in a box, and kind of say, you know, this is what you do. Which is why when I started the extra manga channel and I covered One Piece, YouTube's like, oh, you're a One Piece channel? We have plenty of One Piece viewers that would love to see this. And
really?
Boom. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's why it makes sense to do those type of things, by the way. Like a lot of people wonder, like, well, why did someone why did you make Dudes Talking Manga a separate channel? Well, it just makes more sense because the people who I would like to see that content are the people, you know what I mean? Like you want to put it in front of people who want to see it. And right. YouTube is better at doing that whenever you have it in its own box. Right. And that's fine. I think that's a good thing. But whenever you spread out and you read Remains of the Day, but then you also read Tad Williams.
Right.
Do we put this in front of the booktube girlies, the lit snobs? Where do we go?
Yeah, where are we going with this?
Yeah. So I think to my own detriment, maybe for like channel growth, I do read a lot of different stuff. Not crazy, but you know, I have a good variety. But I don't care about that necessarily. I just like having a good time and talking about whatever I'm reading. You know. So
I was gonna say, but for your personal growth, it's probably the best thing you could do.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm more interested in that, you know. Yeah. For me, reading is something that is almost compulsive now to me. Like I just always want to be experiencing new things and trying different genres and different authors. And it is easy to fall into like a groove of reading the same authors. Like I could read George R. Martin every single day and be completely cool with that. Yeah. But I like kind of seeing what else is out there because I'm always wondering if there's an author or a book or even a sentence that can like recontextualize what I'm going through in life or what I've been through in the past, which is why I do tend to stick to stuff that's a little bit more existential, I would say, and maybe a little bit darker because I happen to be kind of a depressive person. So like those things tend to speak to me a little bit more. But yeah, it has definitely led me to grow not only as a person a little bit, but also as a reader. And when I come back to some of my favorite fantasy books, I'm like, you know what? This book is really good at this thing that I saw in, whatever this other genre or author is doing. And that makes sense because like when I talk to Tad Williams, I mean, he's over here talking about Pynchon, however you say his name, Thomas Pynchon. And he's talking about other authors like David Mitchell or whatever it might be. You know, our favorite authors do that, right? Fantasy, they read widely. And
yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think they're influenced greatly by that. I know Steven Erikson absolutely is. So I think it's fun.
That makes them so good at what they do, right? Because they can bring stuff from all over and put it in, put it into their work.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good thing because, if you put a fantasy twist on something, you can make it really special. I mean, Guy Gavriel Kay's made an entire career off writing historical fiction framed as fantasy. He makes a secondary world and it works.
Yeah. I read my first GGK a couple months back and wow, I just loved it.
Yeah. Lord of Emperors was an absolute slammer. My God, it was good. Highly, highly recommend the Sarantine Mosaic.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to get to all of his stuff. I read Song for Arbonne, and it's like, okay, I'm going to
That's my favorite.
I'm going to read everything this guy does because this was special.
Yeah, that's S tier for me. That's the top of the chart, and I would put like Sarantine Mosaic probably second to that, and then like Under Heaven and Lions of Al-Rasan are around the same. Tagana was my least favorite.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really get into the premise of it. I didn't feel GGK is very good at making things emotional that seem very mundane at times. Yeah. And I saw somebody say this in, I think it was my Belltube chat this Wednesday when we were in there. And whoever it was, you're awesome for saying this, but they said the magic is his writing. That's the magic system is the way he writes.
It is. Absolutely. Because there wasn't another magic system in Song for Arbonne. I could explain everything rationally away in Song for Arbonne.
That's the
magic
fantastical.
Was the prose.
Yeah, it's the fantastical writing that he has, and I agree with that. But for some reason, Tagana just never got off the ground for me, and it's a shame. Now it's not a 1-star, it's a 3 for me. It was like a 3 out of 5, which many people were upset about when I said. But it just wasn't for me. And the funny thing is that I personally, when I was reading Al-Rasan and all these other books, I said I wish GGK would get a little bit weird because he's almost too good. And what I mean by that is like, I feel like sometimes it feels like he's not taking risks because it's tight. He writes tight books.
He does.
I'm like, I wish he would fumble a bit. I wish he would make it a little more fantastical. I wish he would go a little weird with it outside of the sex scenes. Cause those were weird now lines of Al-Rasan. They were very strange, which I kind of liked. To be honest, they were kind of entertaining, but then I got to Ghana where he did go down that road.
He went weird.
He went a little weird and I didn't like it. So I said, oh, sorry, bro. It's like, hey, try on
my
this
bad.
shirt.
Don't go weird again. Please never go weird again.
Don't wear that same
like
what
was the most magical moment for you in Song for Arbonne? Like, can you remember like
do you mean fantastical or like magical?
Just like it hit you, that's pure magic. Doesn't have to be magic, but to you, it hits you as just pure magic.
Honestly, I think whenever we get the view of the throne room in the north, and I realized what the story was about. That for me, because it's actually extraordinarily on the nose for GGK and like kind of dark and grim. Like they're brutal, very misogynistic,
very brutal.
And I realized that the through line of the story was love and hate and how those things are separated by about this much. And when I did my review of the book, I talked about how Nick Diaz would talk about fighting. And he said, you can't love this shit until you hate it. And I've always resonated with that because like anything I've ever done that I've loved, there's something about it I hate, or I hate something, or I hate it some days. And that was with wrestling. I mean, there were times it was real dark places, man. Just being like,
it's got to take a toll. Yeah.
Yeah. And it resonated with me. And when I figured out the through line for that story was that, I said, oh my God, this could not thematically resonate with me anymore. So, woo. I loved it, man. What a book.
Yeah.
What a freaking book.
But that magic came and there was no but that magic came and there was no magic.
Yeah. I mean, the one there's like a little scene where you could like kind of take it as that, but like, he always leaves it up to interpretation. Jake Bishop described it as like people's, what's the superstitions, but if they were true. And I'm like, that feels fair. That's a great script.
Yeah. For me, it was that one scene where, the bard's bard, he's like ancient now, and he comes into the little bard's club and he's going to sing a song, and all the other bards are there like, oh, he's going to play. He like takes his time and he walks up there and he, gets his lute just tuned up just right. And they're like, oh, you going to play a love song? And he's like, no, it's not a love song. And he plays this song, and it's kind of akin to like Captain Von Trapp singing Edelweiss. It's like the most beautiful, passionate song about his land and his country and where he comes from. And then he wraps it up and he stands up and he goes, oh, well, I guess it was a love song.
Dang.
Like, oh, come on. That was everything,
Yeah, man. He has the way of just turning phrases that is just Molly, the book that we're talking about, she says which book is this about with love and the hate? Song for a Bon. It is an absolute masterpiece.
I loved it. I loved
what a great
it so
book.
much. Yeah.
Man, you're right that moment is bad.
That moment it's everything, right? And people were asking me, like, well, what's the book about? And I said, okay, what's the most important thing in your life? And it can be family, it can be faith, it can be true love, it can be your country. Pick one. That's what the book's about.
Yeah, that is. And GGK has a great ability to take a very scoped story, usually that is like a place in time with a couple people, and somehow addressing like everyone.
Yes.
In that. And I thought Sarantine Mosaic was that. If you describe Sarantine Mosaic, it doesn't sound like the most interesting story, but I was very much into it the entire way through. And Lord of Emperors book 2 is even better than Sailing to Sarantium by a pretty good margin for me.
Okay.
We were talking a little bit earlier about like reading variety and how I read some other things. And B says, that's how I got here. I don't read any similar books to people I watch. I'm only in it for the top 10s. And this is something that I actually love, because I do this too. I watch booktubers that are not in my sphere. I don't even like the books they like, but I just like them. Or I like the way they talk about books or describe them. But because I read some different stuff, my audience is very interesting.
Well, that's what I think. It's like I think it's so. That's why you are who you are, man. That's why I come back to this channel, because it's like you're gonna be you, and you're not gonna try and be anyone. That's why we all come here, because it is different, and it's like no matter who you are, you're gonna fit. You're gonna have a moment, and we know you're gonna be genuine and authentic, and you're not gonna change. You're not gonna do what the algorithm wants. You're gonna. If I'm going to read Remains of the Day, I'm going to read Remains of the Day.
Yeah. And sometimes you just know when a book's calling to you. Also, I will say this. Like when I read Remains of the Day, and you think about like, how do I pitch this to people who might predominantly read fantasy? How do I pitch this to people who have already read a bunch of like, literary fiction that, there's nothing else they could have ever like. So how do you propose these books to people of all different types of taste? So it makes my job in some way, and I don't mean job as in like the literal sense, but like it makes my task harder. Yeah. And I like that. It's a different type of challenge to talk about books in that way. And whenever I see someone who picks up, maybe a fantasy only reader picks up a book that I enjoyed that wasn't fantasy and they love it, like Shot actually, Remains of the Day. He read it. Not a book I ever thought Shot would read, and he loved it. Shot also read Boy Parts. I don't think he liked that one as much, which highly recommend that book, by the way, John. Boy Parts is absolutely maniacal.
Who's the author of that?
Eliza Clark. It's her debut.
Eliza Clark. Okay.
It's American Psycho, but for hot girls.
Oh, I'm in for that. Okay.
Bro, it is insane.
I'm so in for that.
Here, you read it, and we'll do a live stream about it.
Oh, man, okay.
Two people will show up. And it'll be your son and my mom.
Wait. No, I was going to say, are those two people you and me?
Well, I always got it running in the other browser, bro. You got to boost the numbers.
Perfect. I'll get Jacob to turn his laptop on.
Kevin says, I'm here because Jimmy's hot. Well,
Well, I mean, you are easy on the eyes, Jimmy.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes I get weird comments that just blow me away. I had a guy comment on a video from like 3 years ago. I just love your nose. I'm like, I have no idea what that means.
You got that
Clark Kent.
Well-read fantasy Clark Kent look. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, not as sharp as I once was, but still hanging in there, as they say.
You're still rocking it. You're still rocking it, man.
Trying, got to do our best to show out. This is the only time I ever feel like I put on clothes that are somewhat presentable and do my hair, because I work from home, or I go to the gym, or I go to jiu-jitsu, and none of those things require me to look cool or look presentable. So, this is me trying to...
Unless you're trying to look really good and tape yourself in the gym. I've seen that.
I don't do the gym selfie thing. I don't do it.
That happens at my gym all the time. Like it's like it makes it. Yeah, it really happens a lot.
Interesting. I don't see it as much as I would think I would see it. Sometimes it happens, but I don't know. To go to the gym, I got to go to a dark place. So like I'm not in the mood to sit there and like film myself smiling. I'm in there to do work and destroy myself. That's where my self-loathing takes over. And I'm like, all the mistakes you made, your lats are about to pay the price.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. There are many a nights like I really don't want to go.
And those are the days you got to go.
You got to go. You
Hey,
got to
and
go.
I'll tell you what, that is also true for reading. There are times where I'm like, I do not want to read, but I feel some sort of obligation, whether it be the channel or just because I want to get to the next thing. And I read, and all of a sudden it hooks me, and I'm off to the races, and it's 4 a.m. and I've messed up my whole night. Those are the magical moments that I always chase when it comes to reading.
Absolutely. When you get that one that just works.
Yes.
It just transports you. Yeah, absolutely.
What's the last book that transported you?
Oh, wow. City of Thieves really did. And I also read To Ride Hell's Chasm this month, and I thought that was just great.
Oh, so you read it and you enjoyed it. How did you feel about the writing style?
I really liked it. I really appreciated it. I really loved it. I mean, I love Shakespeare. I've done a lot of Shakespeare work. So I thought Janny's prose was beautiful. I thought it painted a picture. I loved the book because of how hidden it was. When I was 25, 30 pages in, I thought, I know what kind of book this is. I know just where this is going. And in the next 50 pages, it was like I had no idea where this was going. And it just kept revealing itself. Just like if you took layers of paint off a canvas, it becomes something different the deeper you go for these characters, and you reveal what's going on with their past and who they are and why they're doing what they're doing in this world. And it's like it became something more with every page I turned because I think her prose was so intentional.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And you just had Janny on the channel for an interview, which I got to watch a section of. And as always, it's entertaining to hear someone who's been doing it for so long at such a high level talk about the craft. I always think that that's interesting. And I thought you did a wonderful job doing the interview as well.
She is so special, man.
Like, very giving with her time.
Oh, my God. Like crazy giving.
Yeah, it seems like also like enjoys being a part of the community.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Like
she'll say it over and over again. Oh, this is just this community, what it's doing, and it's like I'm shocked you're just gonna talk to me.
I have To Ride Hell's Chasm right up there. It's on my top shelf next to some of my other books, and it's one that I would like to get to. I started The Wars of Light and Shadow, but I did not finish it, and I would like to try to get back to it at some point. But it does require a ton of attention.
Are you gonna start over?
If I did it again, I probably would have to. I think
because I know that in January.
I know. Brian already tried to convince me. He said, "Oh,
okay, all right, all right." I'm just saying, the offer's out there, Jimmy.
I said it. The thing for me was it took a lot of attention, and I wasn't in the space wherever I was ready to read a series like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? I had other stuff going on, and mainly because the read along me, Philip and AP and Joanna were doing, it just kept getting postponed. So honestly, in my mind, I was like, I don't know if this is ever happening. So I started making other plans, and it kind of fell to the wayside because of that. But I think you're gonna, if you had a good time with To Ride Hell's Chasm, I haven't read the book, but I've heard that the prose in that is very comparable to Wars of Light and Shadow. I think you're gonna probably love it.
I think I will too. I mean, I spent so much time breaking down scripts and Shakespeare and Marlowe plays, and like, what does this really mean? What are what's the subtext of this? What are you saying, even though you're saying something entirely different? And so it's like it's that language stuff that takes me back to when I was doing that kind of stuff. And for me, I just love it. I just absolutely love it. It takes me back to some of the funnest times in my life.
How do you build that bridge between reading something, that's just like a good romp, good time, right, to also being able to enjoy Shakespeare? Like, how did you build that bridge?
I've loved comics all my life. I call them a Snicker bar read, right? It's all empty calories and gooey kid stuff, but I just love it. And it's like I stop and get gas. I'm getting a Snicker bar. I'm getting peanut M&Ms. I'm doing it. It's gonna happen, even though I know it's horrible for me and I shouldn't do it. And it's like I still read these series that are just like, well, that's candy. It's just a Snicker bar read. But sometimes you gotta have a Snickers.
I love that. Someone's going to take that though and say, "You said it was bad for you. My book is not bad for you." I can already hear.
I didn't mean it like that. You know what I mean?
No, he did. He meant it. Get him. He's catching up to me. Put him down. Cancel this.
Yeah. Come get him. Get your pitchforks.
Oh man, no, I totally get it. I've had somebody ask me, they're like, "How can you enjoy something like Malazan, but still enjoy something like Faithful in the Fallen?" Which I thought was extremely mean. By the way, I just was like, "Wow, that's
Yeah, I wouldn't have put that. I haven't read it yet, but I don't know if I put that in that category.
They're doing different things. They're
Yeah.
both labeled kind of epic fantasy, but they're doing very different things.
And look at okay. I'm totally on board with Derry here.
Hey, Shakespeare was the James Cameron of his day, all about bums on seats.
Absolutely. This was for the groundlings. This was for the real people. And what did he write? He wrote pop boilers. He wrote mysteries. He wrote ghost stories. He wrote fairy stories. He did everything that we love. Just a little bit of a different language at the time.
I just had to talk with someone the other day. Tolkien was considered slop. People pooped all over him. They thought it was no good, crap. Masturbatory. I mean, you name it. They slammed Tolkien, and then the hippies got a hold of it, and lo and behold, here we are. So many years later, and they're still making the movies to our disdain.
and the language in that, I think, is beautiful as well.
Oh, definitely. So, I mean, it just goes to show, not being in that time, in that place, it's really hard to judge something in the moment. And I had this conversation with a friend the other day, and I was saying, I wonder if there's something being read right now that we're missing, or we've even reviewed and said, this is just fine. It's mid. It's whatever, maybe it's the Lycanius trilogy by James Islington, which I found to be extremely underwhelming. I might look like a complete dunce. It gets a TV series in 20 years, and it's the next Lord of the Rings. It's culturally relevant. It captures the zeitgeist, and I'll be sitting there twiddling my thumbs, going, "I gave it 2 stars. Oh no, I gave it this stars. How am I ever going to financially recover from this decision?" There's a chance.
I mean, you got to count on that, right? Again, art moves outside of time, so you have to count on that. You have to count that we are absolutely wrong. And the time for it is going to catch up with it, right? So it's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. This happens to other books too. I mean, obviously, Stoner by John Williams is a book that I have.
Everyone loves that now.
I love that book very much.
I haven't read it.
Yeah, he never got to see it succeed. In fact, I mean, when he passed, he was considered kind of a middling author, if not a failure to some extent. But he had, I think Augustus had won awards by the time he had passed. But anyway, Stoner was not the hit that it is today, and how well regarded it is. Bookish, by the way, says, "Glad you like the pale view of Hills. I may need to reread it." I would love to talk about it with you, Bookish, if you want to. And also, good to see you, my friend. Very, very good to see you. So yeah, I do wonder, dude, if there's a book I read in the past that I've kind of just thrown on the whatever stack and didn't continue book 2, and in 10 years we look back and we're like, holy crap. Or maybe that book exists out there and just people in the circle are not reading it at all. What if that's the case?
Okay. That's a guarantee.
Man, that's crazy.
That's a guarantee. Like at the very end of that Janny interview, I was like, okay, I really want you to tell me, and I understand the hills you have to climb that others don't have to climb, right? Mm-hmm. Tell me some of the amazing female authors that I am not reading in the genre. And it's like she rattled off 10 or 12 names. And I guaranteed some of them are brilliant, and their work is just not getting the attention in obscurity more so than it ever should be. And these people probably just did amazing, brilliant, boundary-pushing work that we are just, for one reason or another, they didn't have the marketing budget. At the time in history when it came out, it just didn't find an audience. Fill in the blank.
Absolutely. I mean, you can just look at even world events that shape the feeling of a country or the world. For instance, COVID came and went, and we had that whole thing. And Robin Hobb had been talking about doing a story within the realm of the Eldlings universe, and apparently had something to do with like a plague or a disease, and it got shelved. And who knows? Who knows what that would have been? But my point is that world events can shape the way that we interact with media very much. I think it's indisputable, actually, that's the case. So it just makes you wonder, especially, moving into an age where, profits will become tighter. And I think there's going to be a little bit more mess. Like, I am very curious about the state of fantasy in like 10 to 20 years and what's resonating with people.
I hope that it's all cyclical, because I see a lot of interviews with a lot of authors that, are published successful, but they're not successful enough. And it seems like everyone's looking for that tentpole franchise now. And if you're not that, they move on so quick,
Quick profits, fast fashion, but in books. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really what it feels like. The Bee's Knees says even online there are web novels with like 30 million views that BookTube just doesn't talk about. It's wild. Then that light novels, like there's a whole and LitRPG, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It could be in one of these genres, and it
Yeah.
is out of our purview. So I am super curious. And if you think that all sounds ridiculous or couldn't happen, let's not forget that if you had told someone that the #1 awarded television show of all time would have been about fantasy book, I don't think people would have believed you that HBO's #1 show of all time would have been about fantasy. So it could be found in a lit RPG that isn't, deemed coverable by some people on BookTube or whatever. It's just, I say these things because I think that's what makes this exciting, and to take risks, to read things that you don't normally read. And I'm preaching to myself here too, because even though I do try to read different things, there's other stuff I could be trying. I'd be trying some of these web novels. I could be trying lit RPG. And also, if you don't want to, that's okay too. you don't have to do anything else.
I'm not against trying anything, but it's like I'm so stacked up with stuff.
Time.
We can't do all we want to do. I mean, it's sad. It's a sad fact, right? Like, I wish I could read all I want to read. Yeah,
absolutely. We're kind of talking about people that have been forgotten or whatever, but Hope Mirrlees is definitely one of those people. I enjoyed the book that I'm now, of course, blanking on right now.
I don't know this author.
She was pre-Tolkien and unfortunately was not remembered as much as Blood in the Mist. I totally forgot.
Okay, I'll look that up.
Years old today, but she wrote pre-Tolkien fantasy, and it's very good, very well written. I've been reading Julian May's The Many-Colored Land, which is a sci-fi series that was massive, and then it fell out of print, and now no one talks about it. But it used to be on all the top 10 lists.
Really?
You ever find from like Times or any of those lists? Yeah, The Many-Colored Land. It's a sci-fi / fantasy type deal. They go back to the Pliocene era of Earth. Someone takes like this utopia society exiles people. When they exile and they go through this portal, they land in the Pliocene Earth, and things are crazy. And there's like there's a meta aspect to it too, because like Earth's history that we know, was it shaped by this story? Because they went, there's paradoxes.
Right.
I read book 1 and loved it. I thought it was a great time. Some of it is a product of its time because it was written in the 80s, but for all intents and purposes, Julia May is, probably one of the most profound female authors in the genre. And she wrote tons and tons of things that people have just
80s is my jam. That's my time. That's my time, though.
She wrote for decades. I mean, she wrote a lot.
Okay, what's the name of the series again? I'm going to look it up.
So Julian May is the author's name. And the series is called the Pliocene Saga. Some people also just call it the Many-Colored Land.
Many-Colored Land. Okay.
And then it's also, I guess, also known, or another series she has is the Galactic Milu series. I don't know how to say that. But she has tons of science fiction stuff out there and has essays on science fiction, and is someone that should have a lot of attention. I mean, definitely. So I'm going to be reading through that. And then there's also Mary Gentle is the name.
I've heard that name.
Secret History, I think. Yeah, by Mary Gentle, which is like a historical fantasy fiction. That's another one I'm hoping to start this year. You're right. There's a lot of stuff out there that either fell out of print, didn't get the marketing budget, and that might be it. That might, we talk about all this new stuff, but maybe it's something from the 80s.
I mean, listen to Janny talk about what happened to her, like with 9/11, and then what happened between publishers and agents, and it's like, it's crazy. I would consider her to be one of the pillars of the genre we love, and it's like she's just doesn't get the attention she should. And she gets more attention than probably so many others that deserve. It's crazy. It's crazy. Art is outside of time, and it always suffers from obscurity. And I wish I could solve it, but I can't.
No. The only thing we can do is do our best to try to read things that we think are worth reading and try to broaden our horizons a bit. And I mean, we're all just trying to find that next gem. I mean, that's the magic
Yeah.
of reading things. And it should be done reading through all different types of stories and different types of genres. Again, if you're interested in that, I don't want to come off on a high horse and saying y'all need to read this and that. I'm also cool if you just want to read Jack Reacher over and over and over. That's fine. I don't care. Like, that's cool.
I never read Jack Reacher, but I
Hey,
probably would love it.
I probably right. I've heard it's very good. Here's the question everyone's been begging to know: what are you drinking? It's a glass bottle.
People are begging to know
Dude,
that.
everyone's been wondering, dude. You can't have a glass bottle nowadays and people not be interested in what you're drinking.
I've got this is a Bold Rock hard cider Imperial Berry.
Let's go.
Yeah,
that would probably light me up.
Talk about a girl drunk. I love my sweet stuff.
Hey man, I'll have a daiquiri over a beer any day. I don't care.
Give me a big daiquiri with an umbrella in it. I almost poured myself a really nice Irish whiskey to come up here, and it's like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I'll just grab a hard cider.
No, we're about the fruity girl drinks here. I'm in my girly vlogging era. I got
a vlog. I've never done that. You got to tell me. You got to give me the secrets. That's
no,
the
here's
next
the
thing
secret.
I need to do.
Where is it? You get the film on your phone. It's amazing. I don't have to worry about all the setup, the lighting. I just go, this book is amazing. And then I hit stop and I take a picture of my cat and then I put music behind it and people love it and I love it.
But it's awesome. But you have to be in your car for some shots. You have to be in your car.
Oh, you got to do the Sam Sulek driving to the gym. It tries today.
Yeah, I gotta be. This is me because I'm out because I have a very exciting life, so I'm out. I'm out a lot. I'm out. Let me just leave it at that. I'm not going to say where I'm going because it's very, very impressive places, but I'm out a lot, so I'm going to take in the car.
I'm making towns. As
I'm a man amongst town. Seeing all my people, but I'm going to stop and talk books with you. That's how much I love you.
I absolutely love that. I'm so thankful that you decided to stop by and to do this. Molly says, fruity girl drinks forever, man. I spent last winter reading King Killer Chronicles and drinking mead. It was the best shit ever.
Dude, I read King Killer Chronicles last year. Have you read this?
I read it 2 years ago and then Wise Man's Fear last year.
Dude, loved it. I loved that. Look, I'm going to die on this hill. That's on my favorite fantasy series.
I saw it on that list.
That's historical fiction. It's like, look, there is more stuff by the third book of that it seems like you can't explain that Merlin just makes happen than ever takes place in Song for Arbonne.
We're talking about the Warlord Chronicles. She said King Killer Chronicles. She's thinking
King Killer. Warlord. I was talking about Warlord Chronicles.
But both of them are on your top 10 list.
Both of them are on my top 10
It actually
list.
works perfectly. But yes, I have read Warlord Chronicles and I love Merlin. Oh my God.
Isn't that more fantasy? Is there more magical fantasy stuff happening in that than Song for Arbonne?
I don't care if it's fantasy, historical fiction, or a biography. It's amazing. And
it's good stuff, right?
Have you heard Alan's impersonation of Merlin?
No.
Oh my God. Oh, Jerful. The way he does it is it is the funniest thing. So there is a clip of Alan quoting whichever character was that kept calling Guinevere a whore. And it is Alan just going, whore! And it is the funniest clip in BookTube history outside of the Redwall review that Brian Lee Durfee did. It is a gem of a clip. I will find it, upload it, and play it on the next episode of Chatting with Nuts, and I'll send it to you because you have to.
I got to see it.
Alan is the Merlin of BookTube, perhaps.
Yeah, 100%. The best Merlin performance I've ever seen to this point would be Nicole Williamson in John Borman's Excalibur.
I don't know if I could read another Arthurian legend now. I know someone's gonna be like, well, there's actually better ones. I understand that, but I was entertained and I just loved the Merlin.
Oh, he was so good.
He was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Kind of felt like a David Mitchell character, in fact, I would say.
A little bit, right?
A little dastardly, yeah. Just rot.
A little bit.
Just absolutely rot.
But that's the beauty of that series is like, okay, so, the pagans are going to go in counterclockwise circle and spit. Ooh, what does that do? And by the end of the trilogy, you're like, oh, I think Merlin brought that fog in. I think he made that happen. I see. I mean, I don't see any. I mean, come on.
Dude, the look in your eyes. I loved it. I loved it. I could see the fog and the reflection of.
Oh, absolutely. It's like,
my God. Oh, John, we gotta do this again, man.
Man, absolutely. This has got to be the first of many.
Oh, I mean, this is beyond enjoyable, dude. Your knack for performance is pretty excellent because I also feel like you're just a dude being a dude, which I always appreciate, dude. That's a lot of dudes in one sentence, but
yeah,
I felt it. I felt it.
That's how much of a dude night this was.
It was a dude night no doubt, and dude is inclusive to everyone, by the way.
Everyone can be a dude.
Everyone can be a dude. When I started Dudes Talking Manga, I had a comment, and she said, "I'm a lady, and I enjoy reading manga. I wish you would have called it Dudes and Dudettes." And I said, "No, dudes, no. Gender neutral. Everyone.
Dude is universal, gender neutral. You can everyone can be a dude. Absolutely.
Everyone's a dude. Everyone's a nut, and everyone likes to talk some story.
That's right.
How about that?
But not everyone is the king of the dude nuts.
That's true. I am the king of the dude nuts. And then with that, I'd like to plug my OnlyFans that I'll be starting out tomorrow.
And it's only $10 a month to join.
$10 a month, and you'll see me reading like you've never seen before.
Ooh, the lights go down low, and I have a fog machine.
Yes, and no pants on. It's insane.
I'd like to start off by doing some poses for you.
This book makes me feel like this. Interpretive nude posing. John, I want to ask you a question that has nothing to do with books.
Okay.
And I'm not going to take up too much more of your time, but I want to know what you think the best invention of all time was and the worst invention of all time. Worst invention, you cannot say social media. And best invention, you cannot say the Roman road because Alan already used that answer. So it can't be the Roman road.
Okay.
Hey, take your time. Take your time.
Okay.
Don't rush.
Best invention I already know is the printing press.
I like that answer. I like that quite a bit.
That would allow, first of all, it solved carpal tunnel for an awful lot of monks, and B, it got story into so many people's hands that would never have had it if not for the printing press. Not only news of the day, but story. And worst, there's so many. Isn't there? I mean, really, there's so many. Worst invention, the pyramid scheme. That wasn't good for anyone.
That was not good. Well, one guy.
One guy, probably the guy that came up with it.
Oh my gosh. Wasn't that his name Ponzi, and that's why they called it Ponzi? I think his name was legitimately Ponzi, though.
If it wasn't, it should have been. Yeah.
Here, let's ask AI who invented the pyramid
scheme.
It's just going to be a big picture of me. Charles Ponzi in 1919.
I'm going with that's a great answer. That there's no way Charles Ponzi came up with anything good for humanity.
Honestly, I'm just going to say it. Charles Ponzi's a two-pack of ass. He stinks.
Look, there's been douchey people that walk the face of this planet. Charles Ponzi makes the list.
Oh, man. I'm so glad you said that because I've been trying to shoehorn in two-pack of ass for so long. I've been trying to get that in. Oh, my God.
That should be some kind of triple word score. You got two-pack of ass. And you slipped it right under the wire too. We've been going on like 2 hours 10. You slipped in two-pack of ass. Like, come on.
Shouts out to Joe Bud. Here to double down. Here to double down. Charles Ponzi, if you're out there listening to this, I don't like you. I think you stink.
Yeah, I'm gonna go way out on a limb and say I don't like that guy.
No, in fact, I would say he's not very cash money. I don't want to say it.
When I put a brisket on all day, he's not making the list. I'm not inviting him.
Ooh, he's not invited?
I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it.
Can I come down?
Man. Hey, you said you come my way. You give me heads up when you're coming my way. I'm going to smoke a Texas brisket, and I'm going to make my homemade barbecue sauce, and we're gonna do it right. We're gonna do it right the dude way, man.
I'll tell you what. I think it's very possible that you and I are going to be in the same location this year. So we got to make it happen.
I'm not kidding. You let me know. We'll make it happen.
I'm telling you right now, I am going to steal so many books from your house. Like that Swan Song, didn't love it.
That's gone. Yeah,
it's gone.
That's gone. Yeah, I didn't even like this book. I just like this edition of this book.
Hey, there's a difference between collecting and enjoying your reads, right?
I know, and it's sad, but I love both of those things. That's what causes my wallet so much pain.
I absolutely love both of those things, and it does in the hopes that one day maybe it'll help your wallet. But we all know that that's not. I'm never selling any of these.
You try and salve the wound with that, but honestly, no. We all know that's not gonna.
No, it's not gonna happen. No one's gonna want physical books in like 50 years. Everyone's gonna have like embedded chips where they're like reading them on holographic things, which I welcome, by the way. That would be great.
I mean, I am completely sold on. Yes, these are going to be worth more than what I paid for them, and they're only going to accrue in value, and it's like it's an investment. Mm-hmm. But there's no way I'm ever selling some of these. It's just not ever going to happen. No. It's never. I mean, I can't even imagine the straits I would have to be in to go.
You'd be down bad. You'd be down bad. You'd be down bad about as bad as old Charles Ponzi in 1919.
I would owe the house 2 packs of ass. I would have to. I had to get it in there, Jimmy.
Oh my God! You're welcome back anytime, man. I'll tell you what. John, thanks for coming by.
Oh,
thanks for chatting with Nuts, if you will.
Oh man, this has been such a pleasure. I look forward to it all day, and it was even better than I could ever imagine.
Yeah, I'm glad that everything worked out, even with Jacob not being there. We will 100% do this again, and hopefully in person soon.
Yes, I'm not kidding, man. You give me a heads up, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the best part is that Jacob can set it all up, and I won't even have to do anything.
No, we don't. There's division of labor in this house. He's not touching the barbecue. I'll take care of that.
All right. Yeah, I don't trust him. Trust him.
Now he'll be there with a camera, do something for our channels. We'll let him do that.
He can handle all the lithium ion stuff, but we're going to be handling the meats.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, the meats are. Yeah, that's for us.
We have the meats. John,
you know it.
Tell people where they can find you out on the internet.
YouTube, Talking Story, and then we are on Twitter. JAJ Minton is our handle. That's pretty much it.
And you can tell John's a good dude because he still calls it Twitter. If you called it X, I would have blocked you, and I would have.
That's the. I don't even think the kids call it that. I think Elon wanted that to happen.
Worst rebrand of all time. What a dumb thing.
What does that even mean? What does
he
that
doesn't.
Even mean?
He doesn't know. He tried to rename PayPal X back in the day, and they were like,
"No, I did not know that."
Yeah, they're like, maybe you should leave.
So he's going to keep rolling this out.
He's been wanting to name something X for like 30 years. The dude's an absolute clown. Smarter than I am, but when it comes to naming things, it's not. I don't think it's his forte. But what do I know? I'm an idiot talking about books on the internet. So
yeah, I'm a doofus with Wi-Fi. I'm like you, but I can't. Yeah. I can't call it X.
No, it's Twitter here, and it's also Twitter. Always a good time at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on a Friday night every other 2 weeks where we catch you. And in 2 weeks, I will be back with another guest, and we'll be doing this again. But I think this is an episode that I'm going to remember for a very long time. John, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time, man.
Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely. Anytime. Chat, thank you for being the third guest. Thank you for being so willing to participate in this conversation and listen to us ramble on and on about many different things. We always appreciate you being here. If you like the video, you can hit like. It helps other people find it. You can also hit dislike if you hate us, and you can hit subscribe if you also love the video. There's Patreon description. It's optional, but it is always appreciated. Until we see you next time, be good, be safe, and remember to always keep turning the page. Nobody doesn't go home better than me, by the way. Nobody.
Oh, man.